106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Friday night edition of Chicago Corner. Sorry for the late start. You can thank the Lawrence Avenue, Ravenswood, U.S. Postal Service office, but I hope we were worth the wait. And the reason I say that is because that post office is supposed to be open until 7 o'clock p.m. I got there at 5:30 to drop off some time-sensitive packages, to be greeted by a postal employee who came to let another postal employee out the door at 5:30 to tell me that that everybody left at 3:30. Not that they were closed, but that everybody left at 3:30. And I asked, okay, why did you guys close at 3:30? Why are you guys not open now? Everybody left at 3:30. Okay, are you guys closing now at 3:30? Because the posted hours are at 7 o'clock. Everybody left at 3:30. Can you just give me some sense of like what's going on here? Because when I see posted hours till 7 and I'm bringing stuff here at 5:30 and I have time sensitive stuff, are you guys going to be closing at 3:30 from here on out so I know in the future? Door slammed, key locked, she walks off. I really lost it. And because I had some time sensitive stuff that had to get out, I ended up driving around town trying to find another post office that was open later to drop the stuff off before I could get home and get the show prep finished. So I'm here though, and I'm glad to be with you all. And I hope that we have a good evening tonight with my colleague, Ed Heller. Hey, Ed, welcome.
Hey, Jerry, I don't know about you, but I think we should close this live stream at 8:30.
Half an hour, yeah, hour and a half early. I don't know what to say, man. I've always been an advocate of the U.S. Postal Service because I've always respected their institution and I respect unions. But for the past 2 years, from the pandemic forward and from the point that DeJoy was appointed the U.S. Postmaster federally, I've been relying on UPS. And the only reason I had to ship these packages via USPS was because it was the only option available to some customers of my Etsy store, and they were international packages. So I always use UPS, but I was forced to use USPS. And on the one day I go to USPS, for the past literally almost a year, this is what happens. And, you know, it's a pattern, Ed. I've reported so many times on either the Devon Postal Station or the Lawrence Avenue Postal Station. And, you know, if they got to close early, that's fine. Okay. But do you have to be rude and lock the door and not answer a question? That's what I don't understand. What's with the arrogance and the contempt for me asking, why did you guys close at 3:30? Is this the normal close time now? Or will you be open again at 7? And just doesn't want to answer. Looking at me like through another eye on my forehead.
Yeah, some workers, they just, you know, they don't care. And it's like, it's surprising to see it happen at the post office. I mean, over the years, I've seen, you know, companies where entire employees decided to do the "it's Friday and I don't GAF anymore and I'm leaving early" thing, and they all basically just shut the company down. And the owners, a lot of times the owners go along with it if it's a slow day, but it's, you know, it's a post office though.
It's a government institution. It's a government run institution on our tax dollars.
Yeah.
Right. And just the courtesy of a response. Don't look at me like and I honestly, I wasn't being an asshole asking those questions until she slammed the door on me. Then I started shouting through the crack, like, when are you guys going to be closing from now on? And she just walked off, and my tone was not belligerent up until that point. I was just so frustrated to be treated that way.
Yeah, well, you know, Jerry, I think I think maybe it could have been. It could be, a long time building of USPS employees where they're not getting the support they need because the people running at the high levels of the USPS are actively sabotaging the organization to drive everybody to using private shipping services. Now, we know this is happening. We know that DeJoy has purposely, or his minions have purposely sabotaged the sorting machines.
Or you say sabotage. I say sabotage. You say sabotage.
I'm good with either, Jerry, honestly. I think they're all good. Or we could try a new one, the sabotage.
The sabotage. That's what faction of Chicago is that accent from?
I don't know, but I'm just starting one now. Anyway, it might be the same faction that wants to convert us to the tamale standard in currency, Jerry.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. You bet your sweet Pippi. So
some of you may have come a little early to see me post the hashtag tamale-based economy, because maybe that's the solution. But we'll talk more.
We will. So also to clarify, there have been times in the past where I've gone to this post office and the employees have been nice. It's not everybody. Okay. So, and I will give credit where credit is due. I've seen them really, really surly, which there's no reason to be to customers who are just asking a reasonable question. And I've seen them be very, very polite and kind and engaged in conversation with them where it's like they're nice people. But I don't know what was up this woman's ass tonight that she decided that I didn't deserve an answer at 5:20 with a handful of packages and nowhere else to go until I, was looking through my phone. Where can I drop these off to get them out? Yeah. So that's that. We're here.
Yeah. Well, on this subject, welcome Lou and Lainey and Warren and Arturo. And I saw Kathy Powers, one of our Patreon supporters. Thank you, Kathy.
Also, big shout out.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Before we go on, a big shout out to our Patreon supporters, Kathy Powers, Dominic Palella, Dr. Howard Ehrman, and Shane Coughlin of Kerberos Media in New York. Thank you all. They are $5 a month Patreon subscribers, and we really do appreciate your support. We just reached 1,560 subscribers tonight. So we're going up, and that's good to see.
Slowly but surely is happening. And don't call me Shirley. So, but yes, back to the comments, if I can remember to hit the correct.
You were talking about Lou, and
okay.
while you're doing that.
Yeah, so Lou says stop making excuses for government failure. No, I'm acknowledging government failure, Lou. I'm saying that I'm trying to wrap my head around why employees at the U.S. Postal Service may be behaving the way that Jerry's experienced.
Yeah.
And this is not being an apologist for them. It's just analysis. All I'm doing is saying, okay, everybody's having a hard time right now. Maybe these workers are too. I mean, I don't mean to cut everybody some slack, but maybe they got other stuff going on in their lives, and they're like, well, it's Friday, nobody else is showing up for blah blah blah, and then so then half of the building or more does a mutiny and leaves at 3:30, and they leave one employee there to basically hold down the fort, and that employee probably just decided, I've had enough, I'm leaving too. But they waited 2 hours to make that decision. And unfortunately, it affected Jerry because he needed to get in there.
And get here to start the show on time and finish stuff up. I had the show notes done early. I actually had the show notes done before I did my post office run at about 5 o'clock. And you saw them, Ed. I shared them with you right before I left. But I didn't have the thumbnail done, and I didn't have the socials done. And that's always what takes some time right before we go on. But I'm curious in the live chat if anybody else in Chicago has experienced similar problems, because I'm confined to like my area, the Ravenswood at West Lawrence, and the station over on Devon near McCormick, which is abysmal. I just do not go in there at all. They deliver to me, but they wouldn't give out receipts for prepaid postage. I've gone down to the main post office because they're open late at night when this kind of stuff happens. But I'm curious to know in other neighborhoods. I'm sure there are good post offices with employees that aren't that surly. And the one that I ended up finding, ironically, was over by Chicago's Pizza on Montrose. I didn't even know they existed there. I was given up, and I went to get some dinner, grab a couple slices before I came back. And then on my way back on Montrose, I'm like, oh, there's a post office there, and they were up until 6:30. So I was able to like duck in there right before 6:30, drop stuff off, and anyway, that's over with though. But yeah, let us know in the chat. Tell us your positive and your negative postal experiences. I would love to see more positive ones. But
yeah, and I mean, but yeah, we've seen this happening like for the last couple of decades. Is that the post office has been slowly sabotaged from within, and it's just only in the last handful of years that we really noticed them ramping it up, because the U.S. Postal Service used to be one of those services that everybody could basically rely on to have a basic standard of delivery, and now we can't even count on that.
No, sadly, I want to rely on them and I want to support them, but from mail that is reported delivered to me that shows up 2 days later, and I call them and say, you said it, the tracking says it's delivered. It's not. Is it lost? Was it stolen? Oh, we'll look into it. Well, they're basically rigging their metrics to make it look like they're delivering on time, because then it's like 2 days later that it does show up. And it wasn't because it was rerouted. It's just they scan it in as delivered at the postal station to make it look like it was delivered. And then they just deliver it whenever they damn well please. This is just not good stuff. And you're right. It does have a lot to do with resources and DeJoy screwing things up to privatize. But and understanding all that, you know what? Let's just be kind to each other. If you've got a customer come in, just like answer the question and be nice. Why get all surly about it? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, Jerry, I don't get out to the post office often, but the last time I did, I picked up some Forever stamps. These are pretty sweet. And it's only now I'm learning that forever means how long it takes to actually get your mail.
That's a good way to put it. Arturo shares in the chat, I predict Chicago Corner will make local news sometime soon and subs will climb. I wonder, Art, if that's going to have to do with me going postal and making a scene next time this happens to me. I hope not.
Sorry about the crinkling over here if you're hearing that on the live stream. Okay. So we got stuff to talk about tonight, don't we?
Yes, we do. We sure do. I'm looking at the chat here. Constitutional Conservative, Ed and Jerry, congrats on your podcast growth. That's what she said. That's right. Lainey Peterson, welcome, Lainey. Yeah, plenty to say about the post office. That's true. That's true. Who else is in here? Lainey adds, things have gone downhill. They are supposed to have a package pickup service, but they don't do it. They will say that they did, but the package is never picked up. Laney continues. Yeah. They've removed the parcel boxes at the post office on Lawrence, so you have to go into the main post office to drop off a package on a big stack. Yeah. Well, Laney, they've also removed, this blew me away. I was visiting my parents up in Wilmette, and their post office in Wilmette, staffed by very, very nice people, never had an issue there, used to have the drive-ups in back where you can just put a letter in. They removed them. No, I have no idea why. Maybe it had to do with the rampant theft we've talked about in the past of people breaking into outdoor mailboxes and stealing checks and washing them and cashing them. Yeah. But the simple solution, Ed, put a fucking security camera in the back of the building aimed at the post office box, put another security camera at the other end of the building, okay, tight in on where you'd see somebody's license plate pulling up. It's not that hard. I've got a security camera here in my vestibule to see when packages are delivered and protect myself if somebody decides to come in and steal something. And I've got one outside. So if I can do it and watch it on my computer, and it's very inexpensive, every post office needs to have security cameras trained on their outdoor post office boxes. So it doesn't take 2 years like it did the station over here in Lincolnwood to have all these checks stolen, washed, and then you find out later when stuff that you drop in that mailbox doesn't get somewhere, it's like, oh yeah, well, we normally have checks stolen from here. Really? No cameras? Okay. No notifications? What are you doing to protect us?
Not mentioning this maybe to your postal inspector?
I found out about it in a news report. That was
no, I mean, like if a certain post office is having something happen constantly over and over again, Shouldn't they be working with their regional postal inspector to have it not happen anymore? I
You'd
don't
think
know
so,
what's.
Ed. But let me also add this. After my experience today, I went on my phone and was like, how can I call the Chicago Postmaster to find out, do they know they've closed early, or is there a reason? And there's no option on the menu to talk to
No.
someone other than if you want tracking or if you want to report postal fraud or if a post office box has been vandalized. They're all cool with you like talking to someone about that. But if you want to ask them about a customer service issue, good luck, buddy. There's no punch through to get a live agent to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess I could bring this up now. I had renewed my vehicle sticker for City of Chicago. We're required to have a vehicle sticker on our windshields. I think like once a year, most people renew them, but sometimes you can buy them for longer periods of time. That's another story. My vehicle sticker was supposed to have arrived according to USPS's own services. You know, like they have this thing you can sign up for USPS.com.
Oh, I accidentally. I'm
with
sorry.
the mail notification.
I didn't know that popped up. That was not intentional.
Yeah, that was on the screen, Jerry.
I shifted to Chicago Corner 2 to get ready for our first story, and of course,
that was a little preview of a story we're about to go into. And I don't know if I should. I'll try to keep this brief. They scan little photos of the mail that you have coming, so you know what's coming and what's going to be delivered. Except it may be, off by 1 or 2 days. Okay, but I mean, sure. But 10 days later, my city sticker still didn't arrive. So I'm like, okay, did it get lost between the seats in someone's postal truck, or is somebody running a racket out of their USPS where they recognize that this is a city sticker and they're reselling them to people on the fly or on the sly? And so that's just my analytical brain going on there. So
that makes sense. It's reasonable.
I notified them that I didn't receive the mail. And they said, well, our system says that he delivered it. I'm like, well, I don't have it. So it was either lost or stolen. So I reported it lost or stolen. And then they escalated. So it's like, until you tell, when they start to get like the postal inspectors involved, that's when the local post offices actually have to go and look for your mail. And so, of course, the day after I reported it, it ends up in my mailbox. So my brain is thinking, okay, literally, this was either in the guy's in the guy's trucks hidden somewhere, and he thought he delivered it and didn't, which would give him the benefit of the doubt. Or there's a tiny little city sticker reselling crime wave going on under our noses, and I'm the only person who happens to notice it right now. So if you are out there and you have ordered your city sticker through the mail, through the renewal system for the city, and found that yours hasn't arrived in like under 10 business days, maybe you should probably let the postal inspectors know that it was probably lost or stolen. Because otherwise, it's a giant pain in the butt to go down to the the city whatever what's it called? I forget the name of the office that you got to go down to. The
postmaster's office.
No, the place where you get the city stickers from.
Currency exchange. You can go to currency exchange. You can go to drivers services.
No, but I'm talking.
Secretary of State's offices.
So I'm having a brain fart today because it's Friday, I didn't even have booze in my beverage, Jerry.
Well, I just started.
Yeah, the Secretary of State, I think, or the DMV, you have to go down to their office to sign an affidavit or a form to tell them that it got lost or stolen, so that you can get a replacement, because those things cost a lot of money. Some people can't, right away, either the DMV or whatever you get your city sticker from. You go down and get a replacement sticker, sure, but then you're still out that original money that you spent was my point. So it's like, city clerk, that sounds right. Yeah, city clerk. Thank you, Miguel. So anyway, without getting too far into the yap video that Jerry just played, take care of yourselves. Don't be too harsh to your postal service workers, even though sometimes their jobs are crazy and sometimes they just feel like cutting out at 3:30 on a Friday.
Well,
still sucks.
I don't know. I don't know how that's allowable. I mean, there are like rules. I'm sure federally you're not.
It shouldn't be.
Post office like
it's.
Where they
it
have
should,
ahead of time. No, 3:30. Yeah. So that almost 2.5, 3 hours ahead of time. All right, so Jerry and Ed, bitch. Let's get into our first story that broke today. Dun dun dun. News about Jesus the Stash Garcia. I don't call him Chewy anymore. I call him Jesus the Stash. Not Jesus Chewy, but Jesus the Stash. Jesus the Cookie Duster Stash. So no doubt many of you have probably seen this on your evening news broadcasts, or perhaps if you subscribe to the Sun-Times or the Tribune. But let's get into it. So Chicago Tribune reports, Jason Meisner and Ray Long, the unidentified congressman in federal ComEd conspiracy documents is mayoral candidate U.S. Representative Jesus the Stash Garcia, sources say. Mayoral challenger Jesus the Stash Garcia is an unidentified member of Congress referenced in federal court filings detailing an alleged scheme by then Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan to appoint one of Garcia's political associates to a lucrative position on Commonwealth Edison's board of directors, the Tribune has learned. Garcia is not accused of wrongdoing, although it certainly looks like there was some quid pro quo going on here, don't you think? And through a spokesman, denies he played any role in the push by Madigan to appoint Juan Ochoa to the Utilities Board, which is one of the centerpiece allegations in the ComEd bribery conspiracy case set for trial in March. But Garcia's name surfacing, even superficially, in one of the biggest political corruption investigations in Illinois history could make waves in the upcoming city election, where Garcia is running as a progressive and is widely considered to be the strongest challenger in a crowded field seeking to unseat Mayor Lori Lightfoot. It also highlights a particularly thorny political problem for Garcia, who's tried to distance himself from Madigan's old-school politics, even though he'd formed a years-long alliance with Madigan that helped them both strengthen their spheres of influence. I'm going to say this. If you came out of Harold Washington's camp and you identify yourself as a progressive, which I think we all hoped and have understood means reformer, you're not going to go crawl into bed with Michael Madigan.
No.
Period. You should be trying to reform and get that cockroach out, which thankfully the feds have managed to do, at least in forcing him to resign in light of the corruption allegations and charges against him. But this is not a good look for a quote-unquote progressive candidate. The article goes on to say, in an email response to questions from the Tribune, a spokesman for Garcia's campaign said Garcia has never been asked to speak with any federal authorities, including the FBI, federal prosecutors, or anyone in the U.S. Attorney's Office about anything related to ComEd, Madigan, or Ochoa. Or Ochoa? I don't know how you pronounce it.
I think it's Ochoa.
Ochoa, okay. ComEd, Madigan, or Ochoa, nor has he done so. Garcia's campaign also said he does not anticipate he will testify in any of the ComEd-related trials. Representative Garcia has never been asked to provide any information to federal investigators about this matter and has no knowledge of it other than he has read in news sources following the announcement of the ComEd plea agreement. He has no information to provide as he was completely unaware of the misconduct alleged in the case. In those cases, the statement said, Representative Garcia is not involved in this or any related investigation in any manner. Now, Ed, you would think in light of the Lori Lightfoot student slave campaign offer scandal and Garcia's very clear ties to Michael Madigan, that should effectively end both their campaigns, in my estimation. It should.
It should.
It should. And let's hope that it does. Let's hope that those watching this basically toss both to the curb and look to the other crop of candidates that we've been watching, several of whom are not lifelong experienced politicians like Garcia, who rose from the Harold Washington movement into basically becoming, another cog in the wheel of the Democratic machine here, or neoliberal Rahm 2.0, 2 inches shorter, Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Both of these candidates are horrible. Garcia needs to concentrate on getting us money from Washington. And by the way, I was very happy to see Jamal Green call him out on that.
Yeah, so was I, because I was screaming about it the other night.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder if someone was watching us and got the idea to bring that up during the forum.
I look at it this way. Jamal's a brilliant candidate. He doesn't need to hear it from us. Great minds think alike. That's probably, and he was probably on that page along with a lot of other people who've been asking, what the hell, man? You didn't get in the race when everybody else did. You went and ran for re-election for Congress, and now you want to run for mayor, ditch your responsibilities that you just got voted back in for at the peril of everybody that needs you to like do what you're supposed to do in Washington. Because of his ego, and because I would bet money, if there were a place to bet money on this, Ed, that this is the Democratic establishment just moving pieces on a board. Lightfoot is vulnerable. If she loses, we got Chewy there to retain the Democratic control, or he's going to spoil it so we keep Lightfoot and she's going to retain our Democratic control. It's just like a fucking chess game to them. That's all that matters, is making sure they keep their power to continue filleting their donors, their big money donors, and doing their business, not the people's business.
Jerry, I have a theory about Chewy Garcia. I think the mastermind in all of this is the stash. It's making him. Yeah, it's a parasite. It's making him do things.
Yeah, it's like a Star Trek parasite that will control your body and your mind and make you do things that you wouldn't have done before. But he had the stash when he was in Harold Washington's movement.
Yeah, but it wasn't very pronounced. It didn't really have control. Over the years, it's just slowly been leaching, its little tendrils toward his brain, and eventually it's taken over.
It's achieved sentience.
It has. And I honestly think this would be a great little thriller movie,
Arturo says, I predict Chewy Garcia will be portrayed by Tom Selleck in the made-for-TV miniseries. Hey, Lawrence Johnson, welcome to the live chat. Hey, Miguel H. So the article goes on, before we wrap this one out, Ochoa is expected to testify in the ComEd 4 case about a meeting he tried to set up with the U.S. And remember, this guy is related, has a peripheral relation to Garcia. About a meeting he tried to set up with the U.S. Congressman and Madigan in February of 2019, more than a year after Madigan allegedly agreed to lean on ComEd to put Ochoa on the board. According to a prosecution filing last week, the purpose of the meeting was to talk about a political action committee that the congressman and Ochoa had thank you for correcting me on that. It does sound right as Ochoa. Had recently started, but Madigan apparently thought Ochoa was upset over the board appointment taking so long. Madigan allegedly directed his longtime confidant, Michael McLean, to reach out to Ochoa and assure him the wheels were still in motion, prosecutors have alleged in court filings. In a secretly recorded phone call, Ochoa told McLean it was a misunderstanding, but acknowledged he probably would have brought up the board appointment when he and the congressman got in to see the speaker, according to prosecutors. Federal investigators referred to the mix-up in both a search warrant affidavit made public last year and a court filing last week detailing evidence in the case. In the affidavit, Garcia's name was blacked out. Why? Why can't you be transparent? If he's got nothing to hide, why black that out? If there's no guilt by the association, what's the issue then? Why is it suddenly coming out now before the election? Maybe Garcia didn't expect that this was going to be revealed and somebody inside, maybe Lori Lightfoot's people have got some influence over prosecute. Who knows, man? I mean, it's all fun and games for these fucks. Anyway, in the affidavit, Garcia's name was blacked out, while in the more recent filing, he was referred to only as a mustache of Congress. No, I'm sorry, a member of Congress, multiple sources with knowledge of the case, told the Tribune. Garcia isn't the only congressman to surface in the probe. Last week, the Tribune reported that Ochoa also is expected to testify how he enlisted the help of former U.S. Representative Luis Gutierrez, a close ally of Garcia's, to repair Ochoa's tattered political relationship with Madigan and lobby for his appointment to ComEd's board. They are as thick as thieves, Ed. Okay, Gutierrez was like a big Emmanuel ally, too. So there's that whole fucking corrupt Democratic cogs in the Democratic machine that's got its tentacles over Chicago, Cook County, and the entire fucking state. In the emailed statement Friday from Garcia's campaign, the campaign spokesman said the congressman had no role in getting Ochoa appointed to the ComEd board and didn't ask Madigan to put Ochoa on the board. With regard to Juan Ochoa and his appointment to the ComEd board, Representative Garcia was informed by Juan Ochoa that Madigan was supporting Ochoa's effort to be appointed to the board, the statement said. Lightfoot already has sought to take advantage of the Garcia-Madigan relationship, seeking to make the indicted ex-speaker a political albatross that could weigh down Garcia's campaign. And it looks like that started. I only hope that it does. But I also hope that the scandal with trying to recruit Chicago school students to get school credit as slaves for the Lightfoot campaign completely takes her out, because that's being investigated also. Now, the mayor has launched a television attack ad featuring a cartoon Garcia, I haven't seen this yet, dancing with Madigan and FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, two unpopular defendants linked to the political contributions of Garcia. Okay, so I'm going to say this, okay? I'm not thrilled with this whole Garcia being linked with Madigan and FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, but if that's all Lightfoot's got to lean on in an ad, instead of explaining what she would do better and how she would do things better than Garcia, as we saw in that debate the other night, Ed, she's completely on the ropes. She's completely on the ropes, and I think she knows it. But she will not go out without a fight. You have something to say, Madam Mayor?
Excuse me, I don't think I'm on the ropes. I think I'm holding the ropes. Not really sure what that means, but it sounds more like I'm in control, doesn't it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Lightfoot. Lightfoot doubled down following a candidate forum Sunday, telling reporters she found it astounding that Garcia would say to the audience that he defeated the Democratic machine in the past when he stayed aligned with Madigan as more recent scandals unfolded. Well, she's right there. She's right. But, she's part of it also. Don't tell me that if maybe not as tightly connected, but don't tell me that Lightfoot hasn't been doing deals with people downstate like Madigan or Pritzker or anybody else down there. I mean, they're ready to cut her loose too because they realize what a liability she is. But for these past almost 4 years now, believe me, she's been as enmeshed in other things. What's clear in looking at his background is that he decided after his defeat in 2015 that if you can't beat him, join him, Lightfoot said, calling the pot calling the kettle black, though she sought Garcia's endorsement 4 years ago. Remember? And he gave it to her. I think he gave it to her. Or did he give it to Parkwinkle?
I think he endorsed Lightfoot. But I'm not,
okay, I think he did too.
Remember.
I think he did too.
Yeah, I like this overlay position because Chewy's just peeking right over her shoulder.
The shadow of the stash.
I wish I could do multiple overlays at the same time so I could put the stash on top of Lori, but maybe we'll just have to make a new one for that.
The mention of Democratic heavyweights such as Garcia and Gutierrez in the ComEd case could also lend credence to what's expected to be a key element of the defense, that the machinations behind Ochoa's appointment, as well as other allegations of wrongdoing, were nothing more than legal, time-honored political log rolling. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jerry,
let's call it graft.
Hey, Jerry, could you scroll Chewy's head up just a little bit more, just so the nose is peeking up on top? Yeah, perfect.
In fact,
Pushbroom Production presents the 3D blockbuster. Jesus Chewy Garcia in The Stash.
In fact, Madigan wasn't the only power broker they were pushing. Ochoa is expected to testify. It just gets better and better and better. Ochoa is expected to testify that he and Gutierrez also met with then Mayor Rahm Fuckface Emanuel about the appointment in November of 2017, the Tribune reported last week. Yes, that Rahm Fuckface Emanuel, who, is just one of the most popular mayors here in the city of Chicago.
I would like to thank the great mayor of the city of Chicago, Mayor Emanuel, for help making this happen today.
For every scandal that Rahm was involved in,
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
In Japan. All right, back to the article. Ties to Rahm there. Madigan hinted at his defense when he was indicted last year, writing in a statement that prosecutors were attempting to criminalize a routine constituent service job recommendation. McLean, same shit, different day. Same graph, different day. McLean, look, get Rahm, get Madigan, get this guy Ochoa, see if you can wrangle the stash into it. And I'm sure there's a nice federal penitentiary country club facility that's got rooms waiting for him. McLean's lawyer, Patrick Cotter, has made similar arguments, saying in a statement when the case was first indicted that in their zeal to get Madigan, prosecutors were attempting to rewrite the law on bribery and criminalize long recognized, legitimate, common, and normal lobbying activity into some new form of crime. Well, no, it's the old form of crime. You guys are just giving it pretty names. Madigan's legal team declined to comment for this story, as did Cotter. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office also had no comment. Ochoa, a former Marine who heads the Riverside-based facilities management firm Miramar Group, could not be reached. His lawyer, Ricardo Meza, had no immediate comment. The Ochoa scheme was just one aspect of bombshell allegations that first came to light in July of 2020 when the U.S. Attorney's Office unveiled a criminal complaint charging ComEd with a years-long bribery scheme. Okay, this is not a normal lobbying activity. This is a bribery scheme involving jobs, contracts, and payments to Madigan's allies. Under the terms of a deferred prosecution agreement with the government, ComEd agreed to pay a record $200 million fine and cooperate with investigators in exchange for the charges being dropped in 2023. Now, had ComEd existed in Japan, Ed, it would have gotten the corporate death penalty. They would have been put out of business for this kind of corruption. But we don't do that here. We charge them a fine and we let them continue to get away with shit until they get caught again, in which case they pay another fine, continue to do business, continue to engage in bribes, continue to fuck over consumers. And $200 million for ComEd, that's a drop in the bucket.
And by the way, when we say fine, really that's just another bribe.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to make anyone whole who was affected by the things that they did.
That's right. That's right. In November of 2020, an indictment was unsealed charging McLean, former ComEd CEO, and Pramaggiore lobbyist John Hooker. Boy, is that guy appropriately named? John Hooker, the lobbyist, whoring out the services of our politicians.
Not the blues musician.
No, not that one. That's Johnny Lee. That's Johnny Lee Hooker, I think.
Yes.
Also seen in the Blues Brothers, and consultant and former City Club of Chicago president Jay Doherty with bribery conspiracy. Chewy was bragging about the fact that he dropped his recovery plan at that City Club of Chicago. I wonder how many residents in Chicago can afford to be members of the City Club to go listen to Chewy's proposals that he passed along to all the rich-paying members of the City Club that he's also going to be doing business and deals with.
Yeah, every time I hear a candidate just kind of name drop the City Club, it tells me that they don't work for us.
Exactly.
And they won't work for us.
Nope. Here's another picture down here of the cast of criminals. Where is it here? There we go.
Yeah, this article has a ton of photos in it. It's like,
So there's who we just talked about. So
it's a time capsule.
okay, so Tim Mapes, I'm going to point here. Hopefully you can see the arrow, who served as Michael Madigan's chief of staff, is accused of lying to a federal grand jury. He's pleaded not guilty. Former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan, who literally looks like he's got one foot in the grave now. And he probably will either outlive all the appeals or die before they can put him in prison, unfortunately, or coffin. Former City Club of Chicago president Jay Doherty, I'm not sure where he's pictured here because they don't. Oh, from upper left clockwise. Okay, so here's the City Club guy, Jay Doherty. A lobbyist, Mike McLean, is this character here. Former ComEd CEO Anna Pramaggiore. Thank you, Anna, for all the inflated, horrible rate hikes that we're suffering with. And former ComEd lobbyist John Hooker. That's this guy over here. Aptly named lobbyist John Hooker. All right. Article goes on. Another ComEd official, former Vice President Fidel Marquez, pled guilty in September of 2020 and is expected to testify against his former colleagues about the scheme to influence Madigan, as well as a conversation recorded for the FBI. Blah, 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 blah. The scandal helped end Madigan's reign as the nation's longest-serving speaker in January of 2021. Madigan later resigned from the Illinois House and as Illinois Democratic Party chairman. Before Madigan allegedly became the fervent proponent of putting Ochoa on the ComEd board of directors, he had not always been a fan. In fact, Madigan spared little criticism after Ochoa, a former head of the relatively obscure Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, was appointed in 2007 by then Governor Rod Blagojevich to head the Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority of Chicago. Look at all that everybody's like helping everybody here. I'm getting dizzy listening to all these connections. But look, the article is linked in our show notes. We're all very aware of the corruption in Illinois. We're probably numb to it because we get gaslit that this is just a normal day here, and it's not. If you live in another city, I went to Los Angeles. I lived in LA for 10 years. And in my first 2 years staying out there, as I was reading news on the internet coming out of Chicago, based on how I saw things happening in LA. Now, this was back in 2006, 2007. They got shit done in California and Los Angeles then with corruption. They didn't tolerate and put up with the shit that we're used to because we think it happens here. We think it happens everywhere. It doesn't. I mean, it does, but not as bad as it does here. Not as bad as it does in Israel.
Although lately a lot of major cities have backslid into corruption and it's getting really bad.
It's like there's a contest. Who can be as bad as Chicago?
Yeah.
Now
Sorry, I think we're number one.
Yeah, Chicago's number one in corruption. Here's Juan Ochoa, former CEO of the Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority, who all of this has been centered on.
Although, to be fair, Washington, D.C. is probably it's probably flip a coin on that. But
do you want me to go into the connections with Rom, or do we just know and assume it's filthy?
Do we even? I mean,
we have to.
How deep do we want to go down this rabbit hole, Jerry?
I know. It's all in the article. That's what's going on there.
So it's
I see you have something queued up you want to share while I pull up the other stories.
Uncle Warren sent this to me. Took a screenshot from the show, which has it's got Lori with Chewie peeking out behind her there. That's a great pick there. I like that.
Cool.
Thanks, Warren.
Yeah, good to see you, Warren.
Yeah, and then of course, the other problem with Chicago corruption and the fact that they think that it's normal is that they have the untouchables to fall back on.
You're not to approve of your methods.
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, you're not from Chicago.
All right, I'm queuing up stuff for the mayoral debate coverage and analysis that we're going to do.
Okay,
you bring up the YouTube video?
Yes.
And I'm going to get the stories ready.
The one from WGN?
Yeah, let's just have it ready, and we can roll through it as I go through the article.
Yeah, I got that one for you.
Okay. Stuff is loading.
You want me to roll it?
No. Let's go into. I want to go into the Tribune article first. See, I haven't had a chance to watch that video. I wish I'd had time, but I didn't before the show to know what's in there. Okay. I just figured we can kind of roll and comment on certain things, but let's go into the Tribune article first, because first of all, Ed and I have a huge bone to pick with WLS7. Jeopardy was more important to run in the 7 p.m. slot on their broadcast channel. If you had internet and a strong connection, that's where you could watch this debate. Now, that tells me...
Whoa. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt here, Jerry, but not just Jeopardy, Celebrity Jeopardy.
Was the ghost of Sean Connery there?
Very possibly.
I'll take... God, what was the joke from the SNL Jeopardy?
Oh, legit now.
I'll take the rapists for 10,000. It's therapists, Sean. It's therapists. That's what your mother said. All right. Great. Man, I miss Sean Connery. I miss that whole sketch series on SNL. Anyway, we digress. So yeah, ABC 7 decided to run Celebrity Jeopardy. And if you could find the debate on social media through Facebook or Twitter, and I don't know that everybody did, but really, you got to go to Facebook to watch the debate instead of see it on your channels. This suggests to me, Ed, why would the mainstream media at WLS7 think it was a smart idea to make access to this kind of difficult? Because, I would imagine a lot of seniors, not all, but a lot of seniors, not everybody is as tech savvy about how to find shit on the internet as opposed to turning on their TV sets.
That's true.
Okay. So what did not running this on Channel 7 do? It basically prevented people from seeing the entire scorecard of other qualified candidates presenting their ideas against the establishment mayor, Lori Lightfoot. ABC 7, why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I can speculate on that, Jerry.
Please.
And also, I'm learning that it's that if you watch television over the air with an antenna, it may have been streamed on their alternative channel 7.2
that you have to go search for.
You got to know.
Yeah.
And they, their entire set says ABC 7. They promoted it as an ABC 7 televised debate, and then when it was happening live, Celebrity Jeopardy is on. And
this is really one of the most important elections past Rahm Emanuel in our history. I mean, everybody knew what a corrupt slug Daley Little Richie was. But, when they decided to install Rahm, and everybody thought he was going to help everybody because of his association with President Obama, and he turned out to just basically be a Republican in Democrat clothing. And then we've had progressive reformer Lori Lightfoot basically pick up where he left off. We're in real dire straits. And we've got, to my estimation, we have 3 candidates that I think make sense. Green, Johnson, and Buckner.
Yeah, that was. Can I just finish my speculation here?
Sure,
it was that my speculation is that they wanted to confuse people so they wouldn't be able to tune in at the very beginning because of how they set the forum up by addressing the candidates by the order in which they are listed on the ballot, which puts Jay Mall as the first person speaking.
Yes, good point. Good point. Conspiracy?
Maybe, but maybe not.
I am looking in some of my notes that I took, and and Ed, thank you. Ed put together a Google document by which we were able to kind of sort out our thoughts on what was going on as we watched the debate. I watched it later. Wilson looked like he was fighting off a stroke for the whole 90 minutes. We know the deal with Garcia now. We know the deal with Lightfoot. Paul Vallis, his polling, which is being paid for, shows him in front. We're going to talk about that in a moment also, because I've got little things regarding each candidate from the debate that is relevant in the follow-up, like on social media. So, I write off Garcia, I write off Wilson, I write off Lori, I write off Vallis. Who's left then? We've got Sawyer. I write off King because it's like there's nothing that stands out to me with Sophia King. I'm sorry.
No,
nice lady, but whatever. It's like she's as bland as toast. buttered toast.
I mean, her responses weren't terrible for most of the forum, but it's just that it's,
Did you see how many times she agreed with Jamal?
Yeah, that was the thing. And the other my first impression of this forum was that none of them really went out of their way to give any major details or challenges to anyone. I didn't feel like, and also, if you didn't know that any of these candidates' history, you might think some of them would have been doing better than they actually are. Because a lot of people were saying that Paul Vallis was saying a lot of great things in the live chat for ABC, and I don't know what was going on there.
I'll tell you what's going on there. He's the Bernie Epton candidate of this election. That's what's going on there. That's the white vote, Ed. That's the white vote.
So whether the white people realize it or not, they're just going, "Oh, I like this guy. I like what he's saying." But the reality is that he's the only white guy.
That's right. And the Fraternal Order of Police has endorsed him. That's all you need to know about him. And people who are rallying for him.
Yeah, but the truth is, I mean, check his history though with private schools, charter schools, and all the stuff that he's done in the past, because the rhetoric that he has today is not anywhere close to the things that he was doing in the past.
Yes. So, when we're writing off Garcia because of this, here's how I look at it. I'm hoping anybody who's paying attention to the news has written off Garcia because they see he's a spoiler and he was involved with Madigan and a lot of corruption that he has no knowledge of, which he should. He knew Madigan was a dirty player. Then him and Gutierrez are like, playing footsie with him. Then we've got Lightfoot, obviously. She's got to go. Vallis, who's, the Bernie Epton of this cycle. Sophia King, nice lady. Nothing really fresh. So who's left? We got Sawyer, we got Johnson, we've got Buckner, and we've got Jamal. And of that four, I look at Johnson and Green as being the strongest because they are not lifelong politicians. They're activists. Johnson, the Commissioner Johnson was a school teacher. And Buckner and Sawyer, Sawyer, he's kind of like Vallis light, with a lot of his thoughts on, doing more police stuff, although he does seem to agree with Green and Johnson on holistic approaches to like figuring out to reduce the root causes of crime, which Vallis doesn't seem to have any clue about. Nor does King, because she's always leaning on dog whistling about the police. And, Garcia, I look at him as like an absentee politician. He acts like he's all involved in Chicago. He's not. He's just coming back to like steal the gold ring from Lightfoot to keep the Democrats in control. But let me go into the article. I'm sorry. I'm like doing all this editorializing. This came to us from Alice Yin, A.D. Quigg, and Gregory Pratt at the Tribune. Chicago's mayoral hopefuls took the gloves off during the first televised debate Thursday night, with candidates hitting each other with everything from accusations of plagiarism to lying about crime statistics. The televised debate marked the first opportunity for all 9 candidates to explain their positions to Chicago voters and draw contrasts with one another. Lightfoot, who is facing public concerns about crime, dissatisfaction with her leadership style, there's no leadership to provide a style. There's no leadership style. You have to be giving leadership to try to figure out what style it is, and there isn't anything there. And anger over some broken promises often took the brunt of attacks as she sought to defend her record. That's where I talk. She's on the ropes. But candidates also focused their fire on U.S. Representative Jesus the Stash Garcia, former Chicago Public School CEO Paul Vallis, and Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson in an attempt to boost their own campaigns over the perceived frontrunners. And on the issue of the thousands of migrants being bused to Chicago from Republican states, Garcia took some of the sharpest attacks of the night after highlighting his efforts in Congress to secure work authorizations for asylum seekers. Quote, "The federal government is not doing enough, so Congressman Garcia, we need you and your colleagues to step up because this is a problem that falls in the laps of Washington, D.C., said State Representative Cam Buckner, adding that it took far too long, 150 days, for an asylum seeker to receive a work permit, and that permanent supportive housing programs for these people needed to be ramped up. Lightfoot spent much of the debate going after Vallis. It's funny because Vallis is always talking about how he supported her. It seems to me Vallis doesn't want to burn any bridges with her. But Lightfoot doesn't care because, he's stepping up to run against her. That's all that she sees with the fire in her eyes. Asked how the city would continue caring for migrants with limited funding allocated from the state, Vallis said Lightfoot should stop baiting other governors and grandstanding while proclaiming Chicago as a sanctuary city. Quote, I think I just heard Paul Vallis. Oh, okay, here it is. I think I just heard Paul Vallis say that we should not call out racist, xenophobic practices of governors like Texas Governor Abbott, who are treating migrants like freight. Well, that might be your idea of a welcoming city. It's not my idea, Lightfoot shot back, adding that she was continuing to push the federal government to issue asylum seekers work permits so these people can take care of themselves and live independently. Who are these people? Like, Lori? You always hear people say, who are you talking about, these people, you people? On the topic of public safety, Lightfoot acknowledged people don't feel safe, but said crime is down year over year, and she won't rest until Chicago is the safest big city in the country. She'll die before Chicago is the safest big city in the country of natural causes. Causes.
If she's not resting because of this, that explains why she always looks so exhausted.
Haggard, yeah. In response to a question on keeping street vendors safe, this was the highlight of the debate, buddy.
Yeah.
The mayor also said that the city had been in Little Village working with those vendors hand in glove to make sure they were protecting themselves, including, ready, not using cash and making sure that the cash that they do take in is secure. I have a video clip of this. You want to comment on this while I pull the clip up? This is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, being cash only is only going to stop them from stealing your cash, Jerry. It's not going to stop them from stealing your tamales.
Their inventory.
So I realize that the real solution here is that we need a tamale-based economy, Jerry, where all money is tamales.
A tamale-based economy with lava-based solutions to deal with our elected representatives, or lack thereof.
They got little tamale emoji in the live chat, but they don't show up on the screen. But that's nice.
I'm waiting for the Twitter to load up here. Waiting for the inner tubes, the tubes on the internet to load this video up.
Yes, you all are aware that the internet is basically a series of tubes that we tied together with duct tape and twine, and occasionally, spit
nylon
and bubble gum.
Nylon fasteners.
Yes, and sometimes we get little kinks in the line in those intertubes, and then we have little delays in the Tweety box, which it looks like Jerry is finally getting up on the screen now.
So here was one comment that came from Jacoby Cochran regarding the debate, which I thought anytime Lightfoot spoke was just more bullshit platitudes. But Jacoby Cochran says, reductive conversations, unimaginative solutions, and corny taglines.
Jacoby Cochran is a host of CityCast Chicago, and I believe he teaches at DePaul University.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Ed. The video is still loading. I'll get back to the article till the video loads so we can share that magic moment regarding Lightfoot's solution to the Little Village tamale vendors. Not using cash and making sure that the cash that they do take in is secure. I'm so glad she's thought that through. We've made progress year over year, ending down 14% in homicides, 20% in shootings, but I recognize that people in the city don't feel safe, Lightfoot said, promising to continue focusing on getting guns off the street, hiring more officers, and holding violent, dangerous people accountable, which was Vallis's spiel as well. He wants to throw more people in prison instead of even acknowledge, the root causes of desperation that unfortunately leads a lot of people to crime, unfortunately. Now, our man activist Jamal Green, however, criticized her for cherry-picking the data and noted that violent crime is up from before she took office. Murders at the end of 2022 were up 40% compared with 2019, according to the Chicago Police Department's year-end report, and shooting incidents are up 32%. How do we allow the mayor to continue to lie about the numbers, Green said. Oh my God, I'm going to hit the refresh and see if that loads any faster while I continue the article. On crime.
If you want to send me a link, I can try to bring it up on my end, Jerry.
Yeah, let's do that. Because I've had it with this goddamn browser. After which I'm always restarting the entire system before we start the show. And I have not tried that new browser Brave.
Yeah, I'm actually running on it right now. It's working pretty good for me so far. If anyone sees any glitches or sees my video cut out, let me know. But overall, my computer's running pretty good with it.
I think I know why this link was not. And now I've got the spinning beach ball of death before I can even send it to you.
Oh, boy.
And now I'm freezing. There we go. All right.
Well, your audio's good. Your video froze for half a second.
Yeah. I think what's happening is when these links are shared with a referral on the back end of it, that's why it's having a hard time loading. So I sent it to you without the referral coding after the actual tweet.
Okay,
Although
I
it's
got
not
it.
making a difference on my end. There we go. Thank you. Oh, awesome. Here we go, guys. You're going to love this.
A lot of sound bites, but not a lot of.
Let me start that over.
Heard a lot of rhetoric here.
Turn it up a little bit.
Sound bites, but not a lot of concrete solution on how we get the job done and
See if I
make
can.
our residents and our workers safe. We're doing it every single day.
I think the follow-up is, and your solution is?
I just explained it. We have been in.
Let me back that up.
She didn't explain anything. She just threw out platitudes.
Solution.
Pause it for a second.
Yeah.
When this is all over with, I think Lori will make millions of dollars writing and marketing a book called The Platitudes of Lori Lightfoot. But go ahead.
Heard a lot of rhetoric here, a lot of sound bites, but not a lot of concrete solution on how we get the job done and make our residents and our workers safe. We're doing it every single day.
I think the follow-up is, and your solution is?
I just explained it.
I just explained what I didn't. She didn't give any information on that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Been in Little Village, working with those street vendors, understanding what the nature of the crime is, making sure that we're doing things in concert with them to help them make sure that their money is secure, not use money if at all possible, using.
How do you not use money?
No, that, you know what that is? This is her basically acting as a foot soldier for the World Economic Forum. I hate to go down this rabbit hole, but the truth is,
you're right.
They don't want working with paper money anymore. They want everyone on digital currency so they can track all the money you have and be able to cut it off anytime they want.
Yep, you're right. Plus, they're going to get charged fees if they only take debit or credit cards. And how many people in the neighborhoods are like walking around with credit cards on them that might not have cash to just buy a quick tamale? But the fact that she's only focused on the tamale vendors in the Little Village, that's not where all the crime's happening, Lightfoot. She takes one little microcosm and acts like she's come up with this brilliant solution. It's going to have to be just don't use currency, just use electronic transactions. Get out of here.
And there's probably another angle to it too, Jerry. Yes, that's right, Ed. The other angle is that the city is going to now be a payment processing company, and we're going to resell those machines to all the tamale vendors in the city, so we get a cut of all their sales. At least that's the plan.
Is that true, Red? Has she introduced something like that? Okay.
No, but I can see the patterns, Jerry. You see, you know how? Well, I forget what that movie was where the guy is basically seeing all these mathematical formulas and patterns. I see patterns like that in stuff that happens in the city, and I'm like that, and because that's not the only time she's doing. It's anytime she's thinking about getting more revenue for the city, so she doesn't have to spend the revenue that the city already has, so she can hoard it like a leprechaun with his gold, hoarding his gold. Yes, you see, it's all connected. It's linked together. She's a leprechaun. She's got gold. Yes, we owed that to Kathy Power, so thank you.
On the last
Kathy
show.
Power. Yes.
And we'll give her a bonus. We'll give her a bonus. Here's Lightfoot out raising money for her campaign.
Is that my gold? the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
Here, this is what you're looking for, right?
Look, my eyes, startling, help! I'm the leprechaun. Garth, I'm the leprechaun!
Cool it, okay?
I'm the leprechaun!
Stop it, all right?
Don't try and steal me, pot of gold!
See what I'm saying? It's all
Can't get
connected.
enough of that.
So, and then just recently, you know how they were talking about how now they're going to start fining people for blocking the bike lanes, right? And the only reason she's getting on top of that now, well, okay, the main reason she's getting on, yes, money. That's the main reason she's getting on top of that now is because all they need. So she's got this master plan where they post a whole bunch more cameras in the city, not for safety, but so they can catch people and charge them money for being in a bike lane, maybe temporarily for 5 seconds. But the camera catches them, and I don't remember how many dollars it is, but it was a lot. It was a pretty high fine, if I remember correctly. So
I resent your criticism, sir. They are irrelevant.
Well, okay, you may consider them irrelevant, but, you know, next year, you're going to be irrelevant because we're going to have a new mayor.
Yes. Take out the garbage right now. Look, I, as far as I'm concerned, I'm rounding it down to four potential candidates right now anybody should be paying attention to. And they're not the ones that polling is telling you to go look at. Should be Green, Johnson, Buckner, and Sawyer. With reservations. I think they're the only one. I hear a lot of people in Sawyer's ward complain that he hasn't done a lot of what he's promised. So, you know, I'm going to defer to people who live there, who are in the know. But they're the only four candidates that I feel represent the potential for change that we've been yearning and desperate for. Every time these other clowns come out with all of their experience that hasn't fixed a goddamn thing. In Congress for Chewy, in the city of Chicago for Lightfoot, in public schools with Vallis. We've already talked about the sexual abuse scandals that were not investigated under his tenure as school superintendent. And then Willie Wilson, who we're going to get to here now.
Who doesn't even live in the city.
Right, who doesn't even live. So again, he really looked like he was trying to fight off a stroke for 90 minutes. On crime. And this is the quote that stood out to me. Because I was like, did I just hear that? Did he really just say that? Here's what he said. On crime, businessman Willie Wilson reiterated his criticism that there are too many restrictions on Chicago's police officers.
I roll my eyes every time he says that stuff.
Now, he claims he's a Democrat who voted for Trump. Okay, but worse said people who run from cops should be hunted down like rabbits.
That's the problem, and that's why they run. Because they're hunting people instead of actually protecting and serving.
He's got a real Old Testament attitude towards how we operate in contemporary society, it seems. But I was when he started and said hunted down, like I was going to say, is he going to say hunted down like dogs? He said hunted down like rabbits, which is just as bad.
Yeah. Well, it kind of feels like Willie he's been a businessman for so long that he's got the different perspective on police because he believes that they're protecting his business interests.
Speaking of his business interests, thank you for that transition, Ed, because last time we were talking about Wilson, Mushmouth Wilson, who can't seem to like put a sentence together without sounding like he's drunk or stroking out. I was curious, and I'm like, how did he make his money? I mean, we knew he made his money because he was a businessman who invested in McDonald's franchises. But I'm like, where did he get the money to invest in his first McDonald's franchise? Because those aren't cheap. Now, while I can admire and respect the guy's fortitude and initiative to start his businesses, some of this like tells me that he is a bootlicker to management, and probably still has that attitude as a business owner, because this came from the History Makers. They did a biography on Willie Wilson. Wilson was born on June 16th in 1948 in Gilbert, Louisiana. In 1970, Wilson began his career with McDonald's doing custodial duties and mopping floors for $2 an hour. He got the opportunity to run the establishment when disgruntled employees walked out. Why were they disgruntled? Why do you think they were disgruntled? There had to be a
Maybe
reason,
their pay was low.
right?
I don't know.
$2 an hour in 19. Well, okay, so this was in 1970. It was $2 an hour, but they got disgruntled.
That's super low in 1970.
$2 an hour. When disgruntled employees walked out, and he was asked to stay on when the former managers returned, because he decided to stick around. Oh, let me repeat that sentence. Okay. He began his career with McDonald's doing custodial duties and mopping floors for $2 an hour. He got the opportunity to run the establishment when disgruntled employees walked out and was asked to stay on when the former managers returned. After working with McDonald's for 5 years, he decided he wanted to open McDonald's himself and resolved to meet with McDonald's founder Ray Kroc about the issue. Kroc agreed to give Wilson a McDonald's restaurant after a discussion at an annual shareholders meeting in 1979, and with capital provided by South Shore Bank, Wilson took his suffering Chicago franchise and turned it around within a year. Okay, so you know what? I'll give him. Obviously, he's initiative. He's got a very strong work ethic. He might only have a 7th grade education, but the guy's a hard worker, and he turned it around because he's worth $25 million now.
Yeah, he worked hard. He also had some really interesting opportunities that a lot of people really don't get these
That's true
days.
too. He was in the
He
right.
had the opportunity to talk to Ray Kroc, and he talked him into letting him have a franchise, and he found some way to get funding for that franchise until it made money for him, in which case then he becomes the millionaire.
He becomes management. But also let's keep in mind, he was definitely in the favor of the managers at that restaurant, that McDonald's he worked at, because disgruntled workers walked out. And that's where I say, with a little irreverence and with no disrespect to his hard work ethic, kind of a bootlicker for management then, which explains the businessman mentality. Yeah, what an opportunity to meet with Ray Kroc, and somehow or another, maybe with Kroc's assistance, the South Shore Bank gave him that capital for the franchise. Now, Wilson, while working at McDonald's, earned honors attaining the Outstanding Store Award and Top Sales Performer Award. In 1987, Wilson decided to start a television production company, Willie Wilson Productions, and in 1988, he was moved to pursue his faith after hearing the song "What Shall I Render Unto the Lord" at his church. He sold his McDonald's restaurants to dedicate his life to gospel music and started doing church solos and singing with the Norfleet brothers. Okay, so then he went into in 1997. So let's see, sold the restaurant around, I'm guessing 1988 when he went into that ministry. Still holding entrepreneurial ambitions, in 1997, Wilson founded Omar Medical Supplies, one of America's fastest growing international medical supply companies, and Gemini Electronics, a telecommunications company that provides competitive pricing to assist churches and nonprofit community organizations in economic development and outreach. Okay, so
he's a good salesman. Clearly.
He's a good salesman. He's a hard worker. But he said during the debate, I'm a businessman, and the city. He said this. I might be not quoting verbatim, but this is essentially what I heard him say. He's a businessman. The city is a business and needs to be run like a business. That's what he said.
Yeah, which is, of course, bull, because it's not true. You don't run government like business.
No. So despite all of his accomplishments, I think we can still, showcase why we can respect him and his accomplishments with the 7th grade education and the fact he's got more money than anybody else on that stage. Right place, right time, hard work. It wasn't easy for him. He did work hard, but his belief that everything that came to him that is from a business perspective is what you apply to running the city is just fundamentally wrong, because business is not a for-profit enterprise as he runs his businesses.
Yes. Yeah. Running a city. I mean, there is a part of running a city is figuring out how to get revenue for the city. So if you do have people within your organization who are helping the city figure out how to get revenue, and those happen to be business people, okay, that makes sense. But you don't run the entire city as a business, right? Because cities need support that aren't the same thing as a business's bottom line, right? You need to provide for the people, and while yes, you need to not be in debt while you're doing that. It can't be your priority to just make money for the city.
Yeah. Now, Kathy says government is not a business, except now with the privatization of public services and all of our elected representatives raking in the cash for themselves and their cronies, Kathy. So that's how it's a business. Mad Hat Chicago, yeah. So he's a diehard capitalist, no bueno. Yeah, he is. And to claim he's a Democrat, having voted for Trump, you know why he voted for Trump? Because Trump's a businessman. He probably admires Trump's businessman persona, even though Trump has, had more bankruptcies in his life. And who loses money running casinos except Donald Trump? With the casinos, his father gave him the money to start up.
And keep in mind, Jerry, that Trump was also a Democrat before he flipped sides to run for president.
Yeah.
So those labels don't really mean anything anymore. The duopoly, it's all one team with a couple different little factions inside it, but they're all basically working for big business and all the big millionaire and corporate interests, and not your interests.
And we ain't on that team or that partnership.
Fortunately,
yeah,
we have candidates who are working on our team. And so we're narrowing it down.
Those four that we talked about, yeah. Because the rest of the stage are representative of the status quo system that is so fucking broken, reaching out for the same solutions that don't work with throw more money at the police department, arrest more people. No. The root cause of crime is desperation in neighborhoods where people have literally been abandoned. And if they don't have the luck of having good parents who teach them right, and there are a lot of families in these neighborhoods that do have parents teaching their kids right, the kids are still in an environment of a generational cycle of abuse of other kids who've got parents that don't know better to teach them better because they themselves were abused by parents before them because of the generational cycle of poverty and desperation, which a lot of people, in white neighborhoods, North Side, they can't wrap their minds around. Oh,
no, they can't.
They should know better. You don't know better if you don't grow up in a household that doesn't afford kids the same luck, the same blessing you had of having good parents to teach you right.
And then it happens, and it passes down generationally. So, like, if their parents weren't given the types of community or city support that they were supposed to have, then they build a perspective that is against all the things that everyone else thinks they can take for granted, and they pass that perspective down to their kids, and then you wonder why they have no fear and run out and rob places or shoplift or whatever, or run or join gangs or have guns. And I'm generalizing here because I don't see a lot of that in person, and thank goodness, but it's happening in the city. And in some cities, people experience these things every day where they have like I think Brandon Johnson had said in that debate, they literally had to patch a bullet hole in their home the other day. And I'm like, wow. I was like, I hear gunshots. I haven't, to my knowledge, no bullets have entered my building.
In the most hyper-segregated city in the country, Ed, where people in North Side whiter neighborhoods don't understand their neighborhoods, the neighborhoods they're living in don't even come close to the abandonment of the neighborhoods in the segregated South and West Side neighborhoods. That's the problem. People can't wrap their minds around. And when they point to Willie Wilson as being an example of if Willie Wilson could do it, why couldn't another kid working for $2 an hour in the 1970s at McDonald's? Not everybody's Willie Wilson and doesn't have the opportunity to meet Ray Kroc and turn it around the way Willie Wilson is the exception to the rule. And I give him a lot. Again, I give him credit for that's fine. I have a lot of respect and admiration for how he turned it around. But not everybody has the same life experience as Willie Wilson, lessons that Willie Wilson had, parenting that Willie Wilson had, life prior to that, to make the right choice at the right time when you've got a generational cycle of poverty that impacts the parents, some parents, not all parents of some of the kids who get mixed up in crime out of the desperation of the circumstances in these segregated neighborhoods. There you go. The article went on to say, after we had the little detour with Wilson, because I was very curious to see how he pulled that together. While other candidates focused on fully funding the police department, Johnson drew the sharpest contrast, saying they were too focused on the same old tough on crime approach. I blew the lead here. He also dismissed Garcia's public safety plan released this month, repeating the Lightfoot campaign's recent line of attack that the congressman was copying her ideas. All due respect to Congressman Garcia, he did not release a public safety plan, Johnson said. He released Lori Lightfoot's public safety plan, which isn't very good anyway. As a teacher, I would call that plagiarism. Alderman Sophia King said Johnson's solution to invest in people will not get to the immediacy of crime. What? If you start doing it might take a little while incrementally, but because we've been kicking it to the curb for so long, yeah, I guess that's why it's not addressing the immediacy of it. But you can't make addressing the immediacy of it the number one, which is what they're all doing, what they're all proposing.
I think that's what it is when they say immediacy. They're talking about the stuff that's happening right now. Yeah, some of these solutions are going to take a while to filter down into the areas where these communities start to feel like closer to normal, like the rest of society does, or at least wants to. And so, yeah, they got to deal. I mean, but you can't just laser focus on let's arrest all the criminals and let's get more police. And that's the solution to that. You got to have some kind. There has to be some kind of action that they can take now that communicates to the city that they actually are going to listen to the community instead of punish the community.
Yeah. Okay. I
think that's what I think that came out right.
I didn't want to. No, you did. I sometimes I'm waiting for an opening to jump in because I don't want to interrupt you. But that was a complete thought, so I can continue. Yeah. Now, Sophia King went on to say, despite the fact she said Johnson's solution to invest in people will not get to the immediacy of crime, she pivoted to accuse Lightfoot of being slow to spend the $85 million allocated to violence prevention in last year's budget. Her crime plan, she said, would put police in the communities where they're needed the most. Johnson took a shot at Vallis, who supports school choice, for his tenure presiding over CPS's expansion of charter schools. When Paul Vallis was in charge of public schools, he further stratified our public schools, leaving our schools without the necessary support they need, Johnson said. Vallis responded that Johnson, give me a second here, I'm waiting for something else to load, and of course it's not loading, so I'm going to give this link to you, Ed, in the private chat, because we're going to start shifting into talking about Paul Vallis here and what we discovered on Twitter. So if you can cue this up, but don't have it up yet. I just sent it to you in the private chat.
Oh, wrong one. Okay, hold on. Okay.
So have that queued up. And I'm also looking for that great graphic you sent me in Slack. Of course, I've got the spinning pinwheel of death here.
Is that supposed to be a video?
No. What, the Twitter I just sent you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure because I can't open it and see on this.
I have the Chicago Contrarian tweet.
That's the one where all the Paul. Yeah, that's the one I want you to have ready.
Okay, I got that ready.
Okay, so all right, let me continue with the article until my folder opens up on this end. Vallis responded that Johnson continues to confuse me with the other superintendents while arguing that CPS must reduce bloat in the central offices and funnel that money towards local schools, saying the current spending per pupil is not paying off. Stand by here. Lightfoot's expansion of the youth curfew from last year also drew criticism from the governor, who said the young people of Chicago have been traumatized. And this administration has made it worse. And I think he's right. And stand by, guys. Again, juggling a lot of stuff here. Hang on a second. All right. I want to have this up. Come on, man. All right. So, Ed, let's shift into Paul Vallis here now. Okay, so have that ready, but let me read an article that you shared with me that came to us from Fox 32 regarding the new Vallis poll.
That one. Yeah.
Yeah. The Chicago mayoral election new poll shows Vallis and Garcia as front runners.
Sure they do.
Yeah, I want to know who's paying for this particular poll. And since my screen is taking a while to load on this side, I'm going to read it from the other side. Oh, fucking technology. Come on, man. Hang on, guys. You know, if we had enough Patreon supporters, perhaps I could buy a faster computer so our show could run faster. All right, here we go. A new voter opinion survey finds Paul Vallis and Representative Garcia leading the 9 candidates field for mayor of Chicago. The top 2 finishers in next month's voting will compete in an April 4th runoff election. And despite spending several $1 million on campaign advertising in recent weeks, incumbent Lori Lightfoot has fallen to 4th place. I love hearing that. There's that poll. Has fallen to 4th place behind Teachers Union staffer Brandon Johnson. Pollster Matt Podgorski of the political consulting firm M3 said the big takeaway that we saw is that the Garcia and Paul Vallis basically flip-flopped spots. Now I've got Paul Vallis in first place with 26% and Chuy Garcia, the Garcia, in second with 19%. So there's that poll. Now I don't know if I want to run the video because we might not get sound, but you see the graphic there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Garcia's been the target of a negative attack aired by Lightfoot this month. The West Side Congressman has not yet begun airing TV commercials of his own. Surprising this close to the election. Maybe he's saving his war chest to buy those spots closer to the election date. A leader of Garcia's campaign told Fox 32 News that once Garcia goes up on the air, he plans to stay up through February 28th, the day first-round votes will be counted by the Chicago Board of Elections commissioners. So it's going to be like a carpet bombing of ads for Garcia. Mm-hmm. Johnson, whose campaign relies heavily on cash from the teachers union, appears to have benefited from an aggressive schedule of paid media. He surged from just 3.2% in M3's December survey to 12.2% this week. Mayor Lightfoot's campaign spending did not stem a decline in support found by the survey. She fell from 14.5% in December to single-digit territory this week, 9.8%. Multimillionaire businessman Willie Wilson also lost ground in the M3 poll. Wilson had 13.1% in December, 8.5% this week. Surprising Green isn't in this poll because a lot of people on social media thought he won the debate, especially with people like King agreeing with him. Now, the M3 survey was conducted January 15th through the 17th, prior to Thursday night's mayoral debate. So I'd be curious to see what the polling looks like now. A total of 531 likely voters participated. That's fucking nothing. 531 likely voters is their polling sample, including 49 who completed a Spanish language version of the questions. It is accurate to within plus or minus 4.25 percentage points. A spokesperson from Lightfoot's campaign attacked the survey, calling the race complicated. The Vallis campaign said the poll proves what they already knew. Paul's message of putting crime and Chicago safety first is clearly resonating with the voters. More police, more arrests. He's the Bernie Epton of this campaign cycle. And our campaign has the financial resources and support necessary to continue driving that message home over the next 2 weeks, said Vallis campaign chief strategist Joe Trippi. It's basically selling the illusion of safety.
Yeah, and also...
Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring this up for a second here.
Sure.
Matt Podgorski, who was quoted from M3, ran for Cook County Board of Commissioners as a Republican in 2022.
Interesting. And doesn't Vallis say he's a Democrat?
So I'm just, maybe this poll might be a little bit biased.
I would also say this too, Ed. I don't think that Vallis is a Democrat. I think Vallis is forced to say he's a Democrat when he's really a Republican because he knows a Republican would not win the mayoral election here.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's kind of the how the Chicago machine is working right now. It's a blue machine, not a red machine.
Yeah,
for the most part. Not that it really matters.
Yeah. Oh, Dominic Palella tipped $2. Thanks, Dominic. And Dominic's comment was, I believe, was this on Rockfin, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what Dominic said on Rockfin, and thank you, since I don't see the Rockfin chat, Dominic. None of them stood out from the others. They are acting like the traditional politicians, making promises as if the city council never heard of their ideas and have regularly ignored them. Constituent polling gives citizens a voice in government that provides a transparent record of what voters want, and if their lawmakers vote accordingly to address their interests and needs. IndependentVoterParty.org. Now, thank you for sharing that one there. Okay. let's take that down and let's get the Twitter up. And I might have to have you read the Twitter comments on Vallis because my browser's not loading the Twitter.
Can do. Chicago Contrarian on Twitter is Chicago Contraire 1. Which candidate won Chicago's mayoral debate this evening? They asked.
This horrified me. All of either Vallis has got his people working in overtime on these chats, or I know the Contrarian also appeals to a certain demographic of social media people who are more more right-leaning, conservative Republican types. So take it away, Ed.
I like the first response here. It says there was a mayoral debate because they told everybody it was going to be, it was be televised by ABC7, and then they didn't even show it on their main channel. Who does that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the responses to which candidate won Chicago's mayoral debate this evening? First one, Vallis. Dr. Willie Wilson made a couple of good points that resonated with me. Chicago homeless versus immigrants, free treatment for the poor drug addicted of Chicago. Okay.
That was a good point he made at the end about that. Treatments and
yeah.
Now here we go.
And it shouldn't be a versus on that, by the way. It's not either or, it's both.
So here's someone who didn't watch putting in their opinion. Yeah. Didn't watch, but I'm sure Vallis wiped the floor with the others. How are you sure if you didn't watch? Because you're white and he's white?
He lists his bio as potential spam.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, dude.
And he continues. Okay, so let's have the page up. So he goes on to say,
he says, "I just hope the people understand and don't forget we've been through under Lori's leadership and vote her out."
Yeah.
Okay.
Now here was a good comment from Tom Farmer. Jamal Green most exceeded expectations. Sophia King outperformed somewhat. Vallis and Johnson performed as expected. Garcia was a tentative wet noodle, and Lightfoot looked like a drowning woman out there. She did. But then we go on to more Vallis endorsements.
Vallis doesn't matter. They are giving it to Chewy. Yeah, that's the establishment's plan. That's what the Dems want.
Yeah. Someone said Lori's done so much for Chicago. Sorry, I was interrupted. She's done so much for Chicago's funeral homes.
Oh. See, we got comedians on Twitter, Jerry.
Patrick Fitzmaurice. Anyone with ears had to see Paul Vallis as, without question, the smartest guy on the stage. If given more time, Vallis will look even better. Why are candidates who are polling at less than 10% on stage? Hard to say. Most performed above their pay grade except Lightfoot and the Stash, who were both terrible. Vallis, not even close. Paul Vallis, however, most of the candidates did well in responding. Vallis is the only sane choice. Vallis, Lori Lightfoot continues to offer excuses, but we need to. So this is I would say probably 90% of the comments in the Chicago Contrarian thread are Vallis endorsements, which scares the fuck out of me.
That really tells me is that he paid the most money to get sock puppets to post on this thing.
Good point.
It's because all he really needed to do was to get a bunch of his friends or hire some assistants or something to basically just say, go on here and say that Vallis was the best one for the debate.
Yeah.
Now we saw in the live chat, if you were watching ABC's live chat on YouTube, there were operatives from a number of candidates in there. I'm calling them operatives. Some of them may have just been general supporters, but it might have been people from each of the candidates' teams posting in there, basically defending some of the comments that were in there. A lot of people were going after Jamal Green's age, saying he was inexperienced. The dude has a wife and kids, right? And he's been a community organizer for a long time.
He took on Chase Bank and basically got Chase Bank to start giving affordable mortgages to people in the community that they were not giving them to on account of prejudice and racism. I think so.
And then so people, and basically those are probably pro Vallis or pro Wilson. My suspicion is that Hollywood Hendon probably was in the chat under an assumed name, or had his own buddies in there, basically just bad mouthing Jamal.
Yeah.
And then we had a lot of people in there that were basically they didn't know any of the candidates. They didn't know who anybody was,
which is frightening because how long have these people been campaigning now through the petitions and collecting signatures and being in the news cycle?
So yeah, so here we are. Willie Wilson backs the police officers. God bless him, this guy says. Okay, yeah, whatever, dude. Back the blue is not everything for a city, right?
It is when
There's
you
more
want
to
to give the illusion of safety. It's a sense of protection, not real protection. Everybody, they keep talking about more cops because they think putting more cops on the street is going to they're going to be at everybody's door for someone who walks out of the house with a gun and tries to shoot somebody. It doesn't work that way. And remember, too, Lori Lightfoot took all those federal COVID funds and put them into police overtime. And that hasn't reduced crime. If you're paying more overtime to keep more cops busy and it's not working, how does that argument work that you're going to keep spending more money on more cops instead of figure out how to allocate resources evenly or reallocate resources so that the police have what they need and that you're also attacking the root sources of what's going on here? Now, I'm going to shift over to what Brandon Johnson said. The issue of public safety is personal to me. I'm raising a family on the West Side. We've had to change a window from a stray bullet. The same old policies haven't been working for us. That's why we need a new approach, one that's tough and smart. That's how we keep us safe. And he goes on to say, it's past time we invest in our communities and mental health crisis responders to allow the overburdened CPD to focus on doing their jobs on the front lines. Workers are the backbone of the city. They keep Chicago running. We have a moral responsibility to keep them safe. And this is what Jamal said, too. Both Johnson and Jamal were on track with you create more jobs, get more younger people employed, present the mental health alternative solutions. You have kids more distracted by finding work that they can make a decent living or continue with their schooling. You're not going to have, and investing in those communities, again, going back to the point of generations of poverty where unfortunately, some of these kids aren't equipped with parents to put them in the right direction. That's what you got to focus on. It couldn't be any simpler than that. But nobody wants to look at that end because it costs too much money. Well, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? Brandon Johnson went on to say, as a teacher, I've seen firsthand what disinvestment in our schools looks like: trauma, depression, and anxiety. I'm fighting to reopen mental health clinics, expand community resources, and fully fund public schools. That's why Treatment Not Trauma is supporting our campaign. So, Johnson chimed in with a lot of stuff that we also heard from Green and Buckner regarding common sense solutions that aren't not leaning on giving the police department more money.
It's insanity that they want to keep throwing money at the police.
Yeah, it is.
It's not doing anything.
Earning money. But everybody that you tell that, well, what? Why don't you like the police? You want there to be anarchy on the streets? Don't you want anybody to protect you when you call them? I've called the police in my neighborhood when I thought that there were some kids on my sidewalk out front who were going to knife each other. By the time the cops showed up, they were gone. Luckily, no one got knifed. But the response time that provoked me into thinking someone's going to get killed down there, I got to call 911. The response time was not adequate to get police out here fast enough to hopefully break something up that I'm glad never happened. But, I was trying to be a good citizen and prevent a tragedy from happening. All right, let's move on to Jamal Green here. With I hope the video runs, and I will share it with you in the private chat in case it doesn't, Ed, but I'll try to run it from here. Tell me if there's audio on that side. We won the debate. Here are some highlights. Thank you to my competitors for agreeing with our plans. I need your vote too. All right, let me cue it up to the beginning. And pause it and bring the volume up. Whoop. All right, here we go with Jamal. Can you hear it?
No, we're going to have to fix your computer, Jerry.
All right, play it on your end, man. Fuck this. I hate this.
politicians have been continuing to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's why we're here today. We are investing into neighborhoods so that we're creating new homeowners and thriving business corridors, that we're investing into young people where they have apprenticeships 13 to 25. We reopen up those mental health facilities. We make sure that we institute trade and tech hubs back into our school system so they have a pipeline of middle-class jobs.
I agree with Jamal.
We propose giving
Love it.
property within a year that's city owned. We must stop targeting business owners. We're going into businesses, inspecting them and finding them for little stuff just to make money for the city of Chicago. And we must create more small businesses where their first business license is free in our city, to show them that we appreciate them for creating opportunities, because we got to have a public bank in the city of Chicago. If we have a public bank, then we can invest in income-based housing development and invest in homeowners and small businesses, and all of the profit that comes back goes back to city services. But we have somebody here at every level of government, congressman, state rep, commissioner, alderman, mayor, and yet I don't see that same urgency when I'm in these neighborhoods. Our young people are suffering.
I agree with Jamal.
We are going to bring the city together and create a future that we can all believe in together. If you remember that verse of scripture that talks about a future filled with hope, and if you share that faith with me, I want your vote on February 28th.
I agree with Jamal.
I agree with Jamal too. Oh, we have a poem from Kathy Powers I will share. Pity the city. There once was a mayor in a city who thought she was great but was gritty. This bully talked trash and kept people's cash, left her campaign's hopes quite shitty. Speaking of her campaign, Kathy, she is, Lori Lightfoot is spending, her campaign spending is outpacing how much she's raising. Kathy, do I see a change here? Punch one. I thought she was with Johnson. I mean, I like them both, but I like the charisma of Jamal.
You know, I still like the 3 co-mayor option that I brought up. At the live stream at the forum we covered. So yeah. I'm like, if we just had any combination of Brandon, Cam, and Jamal working together to make the city better, I think we could really get ourselves out of this gigantic hole that the city's dug for itself.
Well, actually, let's clarify. Not the city's dug for itself. Rich Daley Jr., Rahm Emanuel, and Lori Lightfoot. We are now living in the result of their mismanagement and privatization and deals with their cronies that have derailed any progress that Harold Washington started to make before his untimely passing. And we have 3 candidates here that I think better represent what Washington was trying to do than, the heir apparent, the Stash Garcia, because he was around and was part of Washington's movement back in the day. Now he's a member of the Democratic establishment. So, getting into this article by Gregory Pratt, real quickly. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot has lost the financial advantage her campaign had over most opponents, as her campaign spent twice as much as she raised during the last 3 months of 2022, while she launched expensive television ads aimed at rebuilding momentum in her bid for re-election. With a little more than a month to go before the February 20th mayoral election, the first-term mayor remains locked in a tight race against 8 rivals looking to unseat her, several of whom now have nearly as much cash or more on hand to sell their messages to voters, according to newly filed campaign disclosure records. There's not much more to go into in this article. I just wanted to kind of celebrate and laugh at the fact that she's burning through cash and falling behind.
In hindsight, Jerry, I think we spent a little bit too much on that pepperoni pizza ad.
And your mistake was not delivering sausage pizza.
How many times can I say I'm sorry? Actually, that's probably the first.
Yes. And speaking of big sausage pizza, delivered by Lori Lightfoot. You dicks, what the fuck were you thinking? You make some kind of secret agreement with the Italians. You're out there measuring your dicks with the Italians, seeing who's got the biggest dicks. You're out there stroking your dicks over the Columbus statue. My dick is bigger than yours and the Italians. I have the biggest dick in Chicago. I mean, sausage was clearly the ingredient to go with. I'm just shocked that she opted for pepperoni.
Yeah. And it's really a shame you guys can't see me singing along with the song while that's going on. But it's kind of fun.
All right, so why don't we bring up, before we move into our next stories, let's bring up the mayoral highlight video. I think was it from ABC 7 or from another station?
I think it was the WGN one.
Okay.
Oh, the one with Jenna Barnes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can bring that up. Hang on. Let's see how fast Ed can bring up a video. Well, here we go.
A little more than a month to go until Election Day, and all 9 candidates squared off at a debate here downtown that wrapped up just about 30 minutes ago. We found Mayor Lori Lightfoot often trying to draw a distinction between herself and the other candidates, accusing them of spouting sound bites while saying she's the one doing the work as the incumbent. This debate was hosted by ABC 7 in partnership with the League of Women Voters and Univision. The candidates tackled issues like attracting business and improving transportation, and most issues found their way back to public safety, how these candidates vow to make Chicago safer.
We reopen up those mental health facilities. We make sure that we institute trade and tech hubs back into our school system so they have a pipeline of middle-class jobs.
We need more police. They're not our sole solution to this issue, but we have a plan that puts police in the communities where they belong.
What we have to do is make sure we invest in safety and justice and have a balanced approach. I've put forth a plan called Safer 77 that does exactly that, putting money in communities and the people who are doing the work on the ground.
Take the handcuffs off the police, put on people who was actually doing it.
Full investment in youth employment. There's a direct correlation between youth employment and violence reduction.
What we need to do is return to a community policing strategy that has beat cops on every beat.
I recognize that people in the city don't feel safe. So we've got to keep working on the strategy that we know is making progress.
We need to listen more to our youth, engage with them, and really work on that together in order to really ramp down crime.
Building trust between community residents and the police is at the heart of ensuring that we have a safer Chicago.
These candidates also debated a more lighthearted topic, the question of how or if to keep the Bears here in Chicago. We will have some of those and much more coming up at 10 for now.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Let them go. They can go. Bears, bye-bye.
Here's my favorite bingo card of the mayoral candidates that Ed shared with me over on Slack. I love this. Cam Buckner is, and this is using Dungeons and Dragons colloquialisms.
Yeah, it's basically role-playing game alignments is what we're looking at here.
Okay, so Cam Buckner is lawful good. Commissioner Johnson is neutral good. I love that Jamal is chaotic good because I like Sophia King is definitely lawful neutral. This is like ingenious in how it's really laying out how they all align with their views and their solutions and their missteps and failures as we get further down the card here. Garcia is true neutral because he'll say anything and stand for nothing. As I like to say about Kamala Harris. Sawyer is chaotic neutral.
I think we might need to flip those two, but
I think you're right. I think that's going too harsh on Sawyer. Absolutely. You're right. We need to edit this. Now, Vallis is lawful evil.
Yeah.
Lightfoot is neutral evil. And Wilson is chaotic.
No,
I love it.
Okay. Now, at first glance, they're pretty close. I'm thinking, actually, I think Brandon Johnson might be the lawful good, and Cam Buckner might be the neutral good. I'm not sure.
All right, I can kind of see other.
You can kind of flip them either way. I guess it depends on the exact subject.
Now, the only reason I love that Jay Mal is chaotic good is he's an activist, and people don't like activists. He's knocking things around. He's disruptive because polite conversation is not really working as far as like getting people to pay attention to making change. So I think that is an absolute advantage on his part and should be.
Yeah, well, you know the phrase "good trouble."
Yes.
Right
Yeah.
That's Jay Mal.
Right. So this is hilarious. So yeah, maybe we'll have to Photoshop and swap some around as we see it, as we run this and put it on our Chicago Corner Twitter feed. But now here we're going to shift into another story that is appalling.
Oh, yeah, Kathy Powers is suggesting that Lori should be the chaotic evil, so maybe Willie would be the neutral evil there.
I think the reason Willie is chaotic evil is because he can't put two sentences together. Lightfoot, is she chaotic?
Yes, because like the NASCAR stuff and the casino things.
Okay.
Willie, he's just like, this is the system he came up through, right?
Okay.
He really is kind of the neutral evil because he's just going along with the establishment because that's all he knows.
You and Kathy are absolutely right. I'm going to let you Photoshop that so we can share it, because whoever put this together was on the right track, but not.
They were close. They were close.
Yeah, they didn't think it through as carefully as we have now, using this model. All right, so going into our next story, we will have video with this one. But at least quote
if
from. If
anybody's wondering,
what do you
that's
got
what
there?
I'm eating. Milk chocolate, malted milk balls.
You know what I got?
From the Jewels.
I've got my gummy strawberry rings that I've been,
those are good too.
I know. I've been like rationing myself because I could go through a whole thing of this tonight, but I've been like,
all right.
Started last night, just a few. I'm not going to
last one, or I'm going to eat the whole container.
All right. So let me go into this article by Jeremy Gorner of the Chicago Tribune. Boy, oh boy, it just keeps getting worse and worse. I think that we did touch upon this story not too long ago, and it may have been a Tribune article that we shared. Lawsuit accuses DCFS of wrongly confining children in juvenile detention centers. Actually, I think the article that we read from prior regarding this whole scandal was from the Tribe, if I'm remembering correctly. So let me go into the new developments. Children who became wards of the state of Illinois have for years been wrongly confined to juvenile detention centers after a judge orders their release, depriving them of the, quote, everyday joys, experiences, and opportunities of childhood, according to a federal lawsuit filed Thursday. The lawsuit accuses Illinois Department of Children and Family Services Director Mark Smith, who was handpicked by Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker, and his predecessors of failing to ensure that wards of the state are placed in adequate residential facilities, leaving them instead in juvenile detention centers. Another failure of the system. The problem has been ongoing for, 30 years. This problem has been going on for more than 30 years, according to the lawsuit, which is filed on behalf of several minors the lawsuit says were unjustly treated by the agency. The damage caused by unjustly incarcerating these children is tremendous and undeniable. These children are isolated from loved ones and support systems, the 34-page lawsuit states. They are deprived of the everyday joys, experiences, and opportunities of childhood. Indeed, children incarcerated in juvenile jail are confined to their cells for the majority of the day, have limited opportunities to exercise, and are exposed to unnecessary violence and danger. So when these kids get out, what do you think they're going to gravitate towards, Ed? Sadly, what do you think they might tend towards? Experiences that they had there?
Yeah, well, they're going to definitely have contempt for the system, right?
Yep.
Or just, the way people do things normally because they were basically lost in the shuffle there. They fell down the cracks of the system. So, I mean, if we're fortunate, maybe some of them will work to make the system better because of the experience they had. But that's a rare thing for people to do that. But they do. So, I mean, all we can hope at this point is that maybe people can help guide them into that direction instead of falling down a different set of cracks in a different part of the system.
After seeing the hell they've just been forced through. DCFS, for more than 3 decades, has operated under federal court oversight due to litigation from the American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois calling for reform in the child welfare system. The department made slow but steady progress in the 1990s, but then entered an era of massive turnover and controversy with 14 different agency leaders from 2003 to 2019. Republican, Democrat, it's a bipartisan problem, and now is the time to fix it because part of that accountability is that children are suffering the harm, Russell Ainsworth, a lawyer with the firm Lovey & Lovey, said at a news conference in the West Loop. If you continue to harm the children, then we will sue you and we will force you to compensate those children who have been harmed because they are the ones who are bearing the cost of these policies. The only fair result is that the children be compensated, the practice end, and this never happen again to any child ever again. He's right. I mean, sometimes punitive damages you would think would like force a failing organization into reforming and restructuring so that they don't have to suffer the kind of financial losses that a lawsuit would bring against them and damages. It might be a little bit different than a multi-billion-dollar company like ComEd paying a fine and being allowed to continue to do business. I think that this involves more of a microscope, especially in how it's impacting these kids. Speaking to reporters on a call from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Pritzker said he had not seen the lawsuit and could not comment on its allegations. DCFS spokesman Bill McCaffrey said in a statement that the agency works as quickly as possible to place youth in appropriate and safe settings. Of course, we can only place youth where we have the availability that meets their needs, which is why the department is also working to expand the capacity that was hollowed out under previous administrations, McCaffrey said. He also said DCFS has reduced the number of youths kept in detention centers despite previously being cleared to be released. In fiscal year 2022, DCFS had 57 youths who were allowed to be released from custody but forced to remain in detention centers because there was no residential placement for them. That figure was down from 67 in fiscal year 2021 and 64 in fiscal year 2020. McCaffrey said, where are the halfway houses? I mean, that's like an institution I've heard of. It's like, okay, you don't have no residential placement, no halfway houses then? So your solution is to throw them in detention centers. Are detention centers now what halfway houses were until you can find residential placement? How did that fall out of the equation, is the concept of the halfway houses? Children are put in DCFS care if there's a legal basis for the state to assume guardianship. For example, the agency will take responsibility of a child if there's sufficient evidence that the child has been abused or neglected, among other things. I wonder if they factor in being abused and neglected in the detention centers. The lawsuit states that DCFS must house each child in the least restrictive, most family-like setting that is in the child's best interest. Clearly, these detention centers are not that. One of the plaintiffs, Janiyah Kane, now 18, was held while still a minor in the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center for more than 5 months, even though a judge at the time had ordered her release. During that time, Kane was unable to go to her grandmother's funeral because she couldn't get a hold of her DCFS caseworker, she told reporters. And here she is up here in the picture.
Yeah.
My caseworker wasn't
video.
Yeah. My caseworker wasn't answering the phone and she wasn't reaching out to me, said Kane. She also said she didn't feel safe at the detention center. Let's run the video.
Yeah.
She is only 18 years old, but Janiyah Kane already knows what it's like to be wrongfully incarcerated. A charge of DCFS while she was a minor, she spent on 3 separate occasions a total of 166 days in Cook County's Juvenile Detention Center. Even after attorneys say a judge.
I recognize that voice. That's Michelle Gallardo. I did some work with her many years ago. She's a great local newscaster and reporter. I just wanted to give her props. That's Michelle. Good reporting.
Yeah, she's doing this for ABC 7.
I worked with her over at, I think she was with ABC 7 when I worked with her. I worked with her on, she produced an episode of Gangland over at Towers Productions that we did for History Channel. She was the producer of an episode while she was also doing news. That's how I had an opportunity to meet her. Really nice lady.
Even after attorneys say a judge had ordered her release.
You don't feel safe. The staff don't make you feel safe either. They're not respectful to you. They treat you like nothing.
Kane is one of 8 defendants named in a federal civil rights lawsuit filed by Cook County Guardian Charles Goldberg against DCFS. The agency, he says, routinely leaves children in detention centers for months after their release orders are signed because they don't have enough staffed beds to house them.
their parent or their guardian has to come and pick them up and take care of them. And DCFS doesn't do that. And they don't do that a week later. They don't do that multiple months later. They leave their kids to rot in detention.
That's criminal.
Absolutely.
I mean, sure, if they got staffing shortages, okay, I understand maybe there might be a little bit of a delay here, but you're going to lose track of the kids like this?
It's inexcusable, man. It's inexcusable.
According to the Office of the Cook County Public Guardian, in 2021, there were 84 instances of children left locked up for prolonged periods of time.
84! How do we let this happen in society?
7 of them are in that very situation today.
So some kids they know about it and then they're still in there?
There's no prioritizing of fixing a broken system, Ed.
I mean, I don't know about you, Jerry, but if I'm the mayor, I'm going to light a fire under DCFS about this.
Well, unfortunately, we're not the mayor, and this mayor isn't interested in doing that.
Take your torches and go!
Maybe we need to, have, that group go over and liberate those kids.
That's what we need going to DCFS. That's the mob we need to send over. Yeah.
They have empty beds right now. They just have to pay enough money to hire the staff and fill the beds that they have.
Where are the COVID funds going? Lightfoot? All that. Oh, well, we have to. We have to do, Mr. Vasilatos. We must, continue to give more money to the police department, to pay more overtime, to incarcerate more kids. We don't have the money to go cover what we need to do in these institutions where the beds are available, but there's no staffing.
Yeah, don't glare at us like that, Lori. This is on you.
What a fucking bitch, am I right?
In them, and now they have children sleeping in jail.
Actually, pause it for a second, Ed. It's actually on Pritzker. It's actually on the state. I mean, she's got to be a part of prioritizing and changing things with the influence that she has. But actually, to be fair, I believe that this is more of a state issue, isn't it? Department of DCFS, that's a state organization.
Department of Children and Family Service. Well, I think it's both. I think their responsibility is both.
I mean, I'm not giving Lightfoot a pass, but I do.
You
think
don't get a pass on it.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You will stop speaking. You will stop speaking. You're full of crap, and that's the nicest thing that I can say.
And Kathy does kind of support that. There's no place to put them. It's a county issue, not a city issue.
So Preckwinkle has culpability in this too.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, this is happening. All the news channels are covering it now. Take care of it. Do something.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, yeah, I'm not even going to say. I mean, I can't compare the problem with the potholes, so I'm not even going to go deep into that. But it's like,
no pun intended.
I mean,
go deep into that. That's what she said.
Every little thing about just normal things that a properly run city or state should have seem to be like pulling teeth.
Agreed.
Beds that they have that are empty that used to have children sleeping in them, and now they have children sleeping in jail instead.
It's not safe there. You don't know when somebody gonna hit you. You don't know what somebody thinking. You can go crazy just being in a room by yourself like that.
DCFS responded to the accusations today, saying in part, "We can only place youth where we have availability that meets their needs, which is why the department..."
How does jail meet their needs.
This is such a crock of shit.
I mean,
because that's how they see these kids, Ed. They look at these kids as potential
future prison.
That's right. They're getting them ready. They're grooming them for prison. Literally, they're grooming them for a life of desperation and more crime to basically recycle into the system.
Yeah, that's not a good message for the youth of America, Jerry.
No, it's not. But what else is new in this wasteland of the United States right now?
Department is also working to expand the capacity that was hollowed out under previous administrations. Thanks to this.
So now they're blaming. Okay.
I don't think this happens in European countries. I don't think this would happen in Germany. I don't think this would happen in Canada. Canada's not a European country, but more progressive-leaning countries that have got their shit together. I don't know that this would happen in the UK or France or in the.
Well, they all have health care too.
Well, that's true, and they also take care of their people. Yeah, so I just wanted to interject that this wouldn't happen in some of those countries that are more advanced, that we claim we're better than.
Yeah, I mean, Kathy says they get a bed and meals. Yeah, okay, but also they're in jail. That what kind of environment is that for a kid? It's no kind of environment for a kid.
I don't think she's being. I think she was being sarcastic because she follows up.
I know.
Prison training.
I know.
Okay.
Prison training.
I didn't want her to misunderstand because sometimes Kathy can misunderstand that we get what she's saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
This work, in recent years, we have made progress in reducing the number of youth who remain in the justice system past the date they are allowed to be released, and we are deeply committed to continued progress.
They were never supposed to be in there in the first place. I mean,
we have failed young people, and our system, not we. Well, how do we change the system when we think we're electing people who know what the hell they're doing, but they're not, and the system is the one that's failing these kids.
Big time. Prison should
I want
not...
you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
We got it. No, that's all right. I'm
Sorry,
glad you did it.
up.
I saw what you were doing, and I turned him off so people could see you following through.
Anyway,
Nice.
I hope you guys heard that.
Oh, Kathy,
nice
I'm
little
not
gag.
I'm not mansplaining to you, Kathy. Come on.
Oh, is she Kathy splaining to us, Jerry?
It's Kathy splaining to us. Yes,
that's okay. I mean, she's allowed.
She can.
She's a Patreon supporter.
That's right. We need to follow her orders, and she's right.
Yep. So, okay. Well, we got a little more time on. Let's finish the video.
Okay.
We cannot comment further due to pending litigation.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. We cannot comment further due to pending litigation. Yeah. Because what you're doing is abysmal.
It's criminal. It's abusive. It's criminally abusive, mentally abusive, emotionally abusive. All right, let's move into the next story. This is like, we think we took one step forward with the assault weapons ban, and of course, we got Darren Bailey involved in taking us 2 steps back, at least downstate. From Jeremy Gorner of the Chicago Tribune, downstate judge temporarily blocks Illinois gun ban from being enforced on plaintiffs in a lawsuit. Because, they just gotta, wave their guns around and overcompensate for their little dinky winky weenies.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
Effingham,
well regulated means nothing.
yeah. And here's one of them. Oh no, this is Attorney General candidate Thomas DeVore. Right, rallies with GOP governor candidate Darren Bailey at the Drake Hotel in Oak Brook on November 7th, 2022. And Effingham County judge, I think that's funny, effing, as in Fuckingham County.
Yes, Jerry, actually, that was its original name.
Its original name was Fuckingham County, but now we're only calling it Effingham County, which is appropriate as it relates to.
We're joking. We're kidding.
No, I'm not.
We think we're kidding. It's possible maybe it was originally called Fuckingham. I don't know.
Yeah, based on the judges there, I would tend to lean that that's what it was. An Effingham County judge, that's how it should be known from now on. An Effingham County judge on Friday temporarily, here now, fucking do it again. An Effingham County judge on Friday temporarily blocked Illinois' recently enacted ban on high-powered weapons and high-capacity magazines from being enforced on more than 850 people and a handful of licensed gun dealers because they clearly did not learn any lessons from the Highland Park 4th of July shooting. That's my editorial in parentheses. The ruling stems from a lawsuit filed this week by attorney Thomas DeVore, a, of course, Republican with a tiny itty-bitty winky who made an unsuccessful bid for attorney general last year that argued the ban violated the state constitution's due process and equal protection clauses. Dude, you want a handgun, you want a rifle, you want a shotgun, have at it. You don't get an automatic weapon. You don't get a high-powered automatic weapon. There's a compromise here, and clearly you don't want to compromise.
Yeah, our colleague Kit Cabello over at Hardlands Media says, you shouldn't be having weapons of war. I'm paraphrasing him, but yeah.
I read, and if this is wrong, we'll have to look it up. And maybe while I read the article, Ed, you can look it up real quick. But I did read on social media, someone said that the inventor of the AR-15 said that this is not a weapon for civilian use. It is designed to tear people into meat.
Mm-hmm.
The inventor of the AR-15. Now, I'm going on what I read. As I read the rest of this article, could you check that? Because I hope that it's true. Because if the inventor of the AR-15 is saying that, and you've got knuckleheads like these guys, Bailey and this DeVore, rallying under equal protection, this is clear. It's insanity. It's just insanity. They're politicizing something because they're Republicans and they think that everything. Did you hear what Biden said last week when he was talking about the assault weapon ban? Now, of course, we're for the assault weapon ban, but it's kind of frightening what Biden said, but it's true. He said, for those who want to protect their rights to the AR-15s to topple the government, you're going to need F-15s. That's what Biden said. So apparently Biden's not all for toppling a corrupt, tyrannical regime because he knows they've got the F-15s to prevent those with the AR-15s who think they're going to be able to topple a government from actually doing so. But I think it does speak to the thinking of Biden and everyone around him in federal government that feel like, don't even think about it. Everything that the country was founded on, all you patriots talking about the AR-15 and your militias that are supposed to stand up to tyranny, that'll never, ever happen. It won't. What the founders envisioned as far as the Second Amendment is never going to be put into realistic practice as it relates to what this country's now become with the power of the federal government and the militarization of the police.
I found the reference you're looking for, Jerry.
Am I right? Or was that quote?
Yeah, so here we are. This is from Hello Magazine. They were talking about a Texas elementary school shooting. The article is from May 25th, 2022. Tony Dokopil shares emotional message from family of AR-15 inventor. Quote, he would be horrified and sickened. And then further down in the article, it says, during his broadcast, he recalled a conversation he had 6 years ago with the children and grandchildren of the inventor of the AR-15, Eugene Stoner, who told Tony at the time that Eugene invented the machine, quote, solely as a military-grade weapon, and that he would be horrified and sickened by the attacks. It's a military weapon. It's not meant for the general public. Now, I mean, you guys want to talk about, protecting yourselves from tyranny and stuff. That's a whole other rabbit hole conversation you guys want to have. But, the First Amendment has been distorted by basically weapons manufacturers with good lawyers. And
people think they're being patriotic advocating for them.
Yeah, so it's like, you have the right to bear arms. It doesn't say what kind. It also says that you're supposed to be part of a well-regulated militia. Do you know what regulated means? Maybe you should look that up in the dictionary.
And ammunition is not guaranteed under the Second Amendment.
That's correct. Now, unless that's included under the definition of arms, but I guess there's a debate to be had there too.
Arms are the weapons of delivery.
Okay, so ammunition is not included in that?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Okay.
I think a good lawyer could make that case very easily. The court finds...
And before we get back into the article, also I would say that, it is also possible there was a typo, and maybe it was you have the right to have arms of a bear. The animal, the bear. In which case, I don't know, maybe people collect those like people collect rabbit's feet today.
That reminds me of, as we talk about bears, there's a movie opening called Cocaine Bear. Have you seen that?
I saw the preview for that. I'm like, oh my God.
Apparently it's inspired by a real story, Ed.
Yeah.
It's inspired by a bear that got into some drug dealer's stash of illegal cocaine.
Yeah. I mean, even if you don't watch the actual movie, the movie preview that's on the internet is pretty entertaining just by itself.
Kathy uses her AK-15 to fish in a barrel, because that'd be even easier shooting fish in a barrel with an AR-15. Yeah. When you raid the Capitol, you need some military power. MAGA. So here's okay. Eugene Stoner was focused on making the most efficient and superior rifle possible for the military, not civilians.
Yeah.
So the article goes on to say from the Tribune, the court finds the plaintiffs have shown a likelihood of success in relation to the Equal Protection Clause of the Illinois Constitution, Judge Joshua Morrison wrote in an 11-page ruling. Of course he did, because he is sitting on a bench in Fuckingham, Illinois. The ruling only applies to the more than 850 people from across Illinois named as plaintiffs in the lawsuit, as well as 4 licensed gun dealers, including one in the southeastern Illinois city of Fuckingham. The judge set a hearing for February 1st. The Fuckingham County suit, I'm not going back to Effingham. It's Fuckingham. The Fuckingham County suit was among a handful of legal challenges filed in the week that followed Pritzker signing the weapons ban into law on January 10th. DeVore told the Tribune that he was pleased with Morrison's ruling and believes that the judge, like many people in the state of Illinois, have had enough of this. If the General Assembly wants to pass a law, then do it in the wide open. Don't do it like thieves in the night and let everyone know what they're doing and see what they're doing and give them a chance to participate, DeVore said. And I think that's what the judge was trying to say, and I look forward to this case as it continues. Such a fucking martyr.
I'm sorry, Jerry. I'm trying to wrap my head around why it's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause.
Because maybe in other parts of the country where the weapons are allowed, they're not getting the equal protection, having the right to that weapon as the state of Illinois is now restricting them. That's what I'm imagining.
So if it were a federal ban, they couldn't do this, is what you're saying.
I'm not an attorney, but I would speculate. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So they're doing. So basically, they're doing this. It's a states' rights thing.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Pesky states' rights. Governor J.B. Pritzker and the Democratic leaders of the state House and Senate decried the decision in statements issued immediately after Morrison's ruling, which the governor said was not surprising but disappointing. It is the initial result we've seen in many cases brought by plaintiffs whose goal is to advance ideology over public safety. We are well aware that this is only the first step in defending this important legislation, Pritzker said. I remain confident the courts will uphold the constitutionality of Illinois' law, which aligns with the 8 other states with similar laws that was written in collaboration with lawmakers, advocates, and legal experts. Now here we see Jeff Barton of Fuckingham competing in a shooting competition at Accuracy Firearms in Fuckingham in 2019. The ruling only applies to 4 licensed gun dealers, including Accuracy Firearms in Fuckingham. Now, you could also...
Jerry, we got to ease up on the Effinghams and the Fuckinghams because YouTube's... Yeah, they're going to knock us off if we say it like 3 more times.
Really? What is our limit with YouTube's thought police?
I don't know. but I think we've already gone over it.
All right.
I'm just saying, if it'll be hilarious if we get knocked off, if I knock off our stream for calling it an alternative name of the town.
U-Lube. Now, I would also say, while they're screaming about their equal protection, what about the equal protection for everybody that can't have an automatic weapon now if some nutcase gets their hands on one in this group? So you basically made it dangerous for people again. Morrison in his ruling cited a landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision from last year that struck down New York State's concealed carry law. The High Court's 6-3 ruling in the New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin found that the plain text of the Second Amendment protected the right of the plaintiffs in that case to carry firearms for self-defense. Morrison said the defendants in the case, Pritzker, House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch, Senate President Don Harmon, and Attorney General Kwame Raoul, quote, did not follow the procedural requirements necessary for this legislation to stand up to the strict scrutiny that is required when restricting rights to avoid definitional irreparable harm. It's irreparable harm due to the speed, because they got to just have their guns, man. They're not secure without them.
Yeah, how's that? Yeah, okay.
Not a regular gun, not a handgun, or it's got to be that AR-15, man. It's got to be the AR-15. Due to the speed with which this bill was passed, the effect of protected classes could not have been considered, nor could the legislature have studied if this was the least restrictive way to meet their goal, Morrison wrote. Anyway, that happened, and it's pissing me off to keep talking about it. So, do we get knocked off U-Lube for saying pissed off?
I don't think so.
Is that acceptable?
Fine with me.
All right, it's 10:20.
Yeah.
To get up early.
Yeah, and look, and just one final note. Look, you guys. I mean, you guys want to protect yourself with arms. You got that First Amendment right, but understand that if you think that you need to have your AR-15s to fight against quote unquote tyranny, which may or may not be happening, understand that if it's the tyranny of the federal government, they got satellites in orbit. They got access to drones that you have no access to.
They know where
they
you are
can
now.
target you from freaking space.
They probably
you have
planning before you do it, thanks to these.
Yeah, they know what you're going to do before you do it. So come up with a different game plan, because arming yourself to the teeth might not cut it. Yes, Kathy, that is the other reason I don't want Jerry to stop saying effing ham, because the sex bots are going to hit us in the live chat.
Do you think they would sense it when I'm using it in relation to the ham on the back end, though?
I don't know. But, they could also think that you're talking about, I don't know, if you're effing ham, is that bestiality? So there's my joke for the evening, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm waiting for this screen to load. I sent it to you in the... Oh, I got it. Okay, here we go. Going on to the next story.
Do you need the video for that?
Yeah, why don't you get it ready on that end?
All right.
From WGN News, new headquarters for POTR, Immigrant Assistance Organization. Billed as the city's first immigrant integration and job center, POTR HQ received its ribbon cutting Friday. I'm surprised it took them this long to get this thing into place, given the fact, we've been a sanctuary city since when? Emanuel's administration? According to the organization's website, POTR empowers individuals with the necessary academic tools to promote human dignity, increase employment potential, and facilitate participation in the larger community. They do this through free English language education, civic tutoring, and job training and placement programs. POTR's roots trace back to January of 1997, when the current CEO, Daniel Loftus, opened a small adult education center to serve parents in Chicago's Pilsen neighborhood. Since that time, more than 14,500 adult immigrants have been helped by its programs, according to its website. The new building will serve as POTR's regional headquarters and is located at 3357 West 55th Street in the city's Gage Park neighborhood. POTR is the Spanish verb meaning to be able to / can. Now, of course, Of course, Lori Lightfoot took credit for this, even though it's was in the making since what 2000 and I want to say 19 or 20, I think, according to some of the other articles we read. But Ed's got video. Maybe this will go into more detail.
Yeah, stand by. Let's see if I can get. Oh, come on now.
Got a paywall or something?
No, I was trying to see if I could get it in another. Okay, okay. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can get it to start from the beginning. And let me boost the volume on this because I know it's probably going to need it. Okay.
Future immigrants to come.
Okay. Stand by.
Heart is broken that I cannot be. But she does. And future immigrants to come through this path.
I don't know where the start is on this thing, but it's
And
making it very difficult for me to start from zero here.
I am City Clerk Anna
There we go.
Valencia, and I will be your MC for today's event. So
Yay.
bear with me as we keep
Yay.
this flowing.
Oh, this is 38
Unfortunately,
minutes.
my good
Okay.
friend and board chair Poder, Jennifer Guzman, is unable to join us today for this special occasion, and I know it is deeply saddening for her, but she does have a message for us.
Family, friends, and supporters, my heart is broken that I cannot be there to celebrate with all of you today. But today isn't for me. It's for the community, Poder team, Chicago, and future immigrants to come through this path. And you're in great hands with my good friend Anna. Hogar, home. Home is a safe haven and a comfort zone, a place where we can truly just be ourselves. A recent study by economists shows approximately 36% of innovation comes from immigrants. We're not just serving the user that comes through our new doors. At Poder HQ, we're serving the greater good of humanity for years to come. Gage Park residents, Daniel, Griselda, Jose, and all of your incredible team, on behalf of the board of directors, welcome home.
Hey, can you pause it for a second?
Yeah.
I think you sent me a link in Slack that showed Lightfoot was taking credit for this. That's what I'm trying to find right now.
Oh, she was on Facebook basically cutting a ribbon. I don't know if there was video for that, but you need the link for that?
Well, I don't. If it's video, I don't know that it'll open.
I don't think it was video.
Oh, okay.
No. It was I just had a screenshot and her cutting ribbon. I think it was just a still photo, but let me see if I got it here.
Yeah, I'm looking for it on my phone here. I think you could probably put it in Friday's show notes because you mentioned something about her taking credit for it, which I'm not surprised. All right. Too many things to juggle here, everybody. So
I'll throw this at you in the Facebook and the private link, but I'll probably just bring it up on my screen over here.
Yeah, that's fine. Share it on your end, and you can read from it since I won't be able to.
Here we go.
It's from Facebook, yeah, and of course Lori takes credit for it. Has to take credit.
Okay. Oh, I gotta do the voice for this. Okay.
You do. Today.
Okay. Today we cut the ribbon on Poder's headquarters in Gage Park. Chicago is a proud, welcoming city, so it's only right that a former city-owned facility has been transformed into a world-class community center to support the residents who need its services. This is the first ribbon cutting of the Community Development Grant with a city investment of $2.7 million. So obviously I'm going to take credit for this while I'm running for re-election.
Now, speaking of money, that
here she is, gangster hat.
Wait, let's see. Yeah, of course. Little Lori Capone.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of money to help migrants.
No, actually, I mean, it's a good thing. Okay. It's just that, she steps in to cut a ribbon, right? And she's doing it just for the clout.
Yeah, of course she is.
Because it's all the rest of city council and everything they probably got together to get this funding off the ground.
Oh, way before she he took office the first time.
Yeah.
So, all right. So going to our next story. State okays $20 million for influx of migrants to Chicago after warning that funding would end, amount less than half of what Lightfoot wanted. So $2.5 million went into this Potter Center, I think they said. She said in that tweet. Now, state okays $20 million for influx of migrants. Apparently, Lightfoot wanted $40 million from the state. As this Tribune article by Gregory Pratt goes into. Chicago is poised to receive $20 million from the state of Illinois under an appropriation bill passed by legislators for migrants, but that's less than half of what Mayor Lori Lightfoot requested to address a recent influx of asylum seekers. You know, Lori, you could have redirected some of those COVID relief funds that you spent, 70% of which you spent for police overtime, towards this, if it was that important to you. But Lightfoot sent a letter late last month. A lot of that money could have gone elsewhere to homeless relief, people who lost their jobs. Lightfoot sent a letter late last month to state legislators asking for actually more than $40 million. She wanted $54 million to help fund emergency services to asylum-seeking individuals. She noted that Governor J.B. Pritzker's administration sent a letter to the city saying the state is out of funds and will no longer be able to support city migrant service efforts as of February 1st, 2023. I guess this is like really good timing that the Potter Center opened, because at least it's a bit of a Band-Aid to help some of these efforts. But if she thinks she needs $54 million, they're still going to be underfunded and underwhelmed, or not understaffed, but under-equipped is the word. Okay, you'll always ask for more than you'll get. To fund emergency service migrant and asylum-seeking individuals, Lightfoot asked for $54 million. State legislators responded by passing a $20 million appropriation for asylum seekers in the lame duck session. At her customary post-city council meeting news conference Wednesday, Lightfoot said her administration is taking a wait-and-see approach. If you look at the conversation around the $20 million, it was that they're going to give this to us as an initial installment. Wait and see if any monies that we get from the federal government, and give us the opportunity to come back and ask for more, Lightfoot said. So I'm never going to say no to that kind of money. We could use it because it will be put to good use in helping support migrants in the city. The measure, which still has to be signed by Pritzker, and also includes an additional $90 million for state welcoming centers for immigrants and refugees. Okay, Ed, again, great. Sanctuary city, all for it. $54 million, $90 million, $20 million, all these. Where's the money for homeless people in Chicago? How much are they getting? How are we helping people here, or at least figuring out how to allocate things evenly so that people are. I can imagine. I don't understand. It's great that Lightfoot and Pritzker and everybody else don't want to see migrants living under bridges and in tents. I'm all for that. What about the rest of the population of the city? What about the vulnerable people who aren't immigrants? Dirty, unwashed assets.
Yeah, I wish I could look at the books the way they really exist and see where all the money is sitting. I joke about how she's a leprechaun and she's hoarding her gold, right? But it feels that way.
Yeah, because we know we're
because we know the city's not broke, and we know that when push comes to shove and she needs something for her to make herself look good, all of a sudden that money appears.
That's right. Like, she was able to balance the budget by spending COVID relief funds to pay down city loans to Chase and other lenders. That wasn't supposed to pay back the banks, and those loans were not due back yet. When there are other people that relief. Yeah.
How about.
All right.
And then everything gets funneled through these grant programs, and then they put all these hurdles and red tape and requirements and things behind it instead of just getting the money where it needs to go.
Since the first, and here's where I think we have the optics on this, because this is why this was suddenly a big, important deal that they had to start figuring out. Since the first bus arrived from Texas in the fall, nearly 4,000 asylum seekers turned up in Chicago from Texas, and another 1,400 from elsewhere by the end of 2022. About 1,500 remained in the city's care at the time, officials said. The city has set up 11 shelters to house, clothe, and feed migrants and provide other services, costing the city an estimated $7 million in December alone. Lightfoot wrote her letter to lawmakers sent after state officials said they plan to cease financial assistance to the city for the migrants at the end of January. Okay, estimated $7 million to put them in park warming houses. That's where they were putting them. Remember that story we talked about? I think we shared from Block Club Chicago. That they were putting migrants, they were closing down field houses and parks to put migrants there if they weren't being shipped to Burr Ridge.
Yeah,
that cost apparently $7 million to do.
Yeah, I think they had them at the Northerly Island Welcoming Center too, right? I think that's what that's right. Yeah. Look, there are places in the city where you can shelter people, whether they're migrants, whether they're homeless. The city just doesn't. There's a disconnect there. They're not understanding that if you put roofs over people's heads, that's one less issue that they have to deal with, and they can become a better contributing member of society. It's better for everybody.
The article goes on to say, Lightfoot's administration has also floated, and we talked about this, I think, 2 weeks ago. Lightfoot's administration has also floated a controversial plan to convert a vacant former school in Woodlawn, which they already found $25 million, I think, to refurbish, into a temporary migrant shelter. Some residents have objected, saying the neighborhood is already lacking in adequate services. But the need remains, with asylum seekers sleeping in bus shelters, police stations, churches, and other makeshift locations. All right. That's that update. And the city of Chicago's website also reported that a vacant city structure in Gage Park is approved. Oh, this is the Potter Learning Center. Okay, that's a separate article. We already talked about that.
That was the history. That was when it got approved.
Yeah.
In case you wanted to look into that.
Well, it's in the show notes. Yeah. We're going kind of late, and I got a 9:50 flight tomorrow. I got to get prepared for.
That's right.
I want to roll
Jerry's, through. Yeah, Jerry's going to be rubbing elbows with the elites out at Sundance.
There are no elites. It's a film festival, and people there looking to network to get projects off the ground.
Yeah,
so
I'm just messing with you.
I know. I don't.
But I mean, no, but hopefully it's a good. Yeah, hopefully it's a good opportunity for Jerry.
Yeah.
Because, he's a director and he likes to direct.
To depart for greener pastures at some point. Until then, I am here to serve you at Chicago Corner along with Ed and hopefully Kira when she, after she has her next baby. And can return. All right, so let's get to the next story here. Now, this is an update on a story we talked about. I think it was actually as recent as last week. And this had to do with Norfolk Southern's Englewood Rail Yard expansion. Now, they were pretty much up in arms there because Norfolk Southern was utilizing their infrastructure, damaging property, and not hiring people from that community, I think, over the past couple decades to actually participate in this development. So,
that's right. That's what we were looking into, where the money was coming from.
Yeah. So Alice Yin and John Lippert at the Chicago Tribune report, the alderman has blocked Norfolk Southern's Englewood Rail Yard expansion with delay on land vote. It's just been a disrespect to me and the community. So good for her. What we reported last week, and I think it came from Block Club Chicago, was pretty disgusting in how this business or this railway company has been exploiting that area without properly accommodating the community and creating the jobs that should be given to people in that community. The Chicago City Council ordinance to transfer a chunk of Englewood's roads to Norfolk Southern Railway was blocked Wednesday by the presiding alderman, the latest twist in the freight company's multi-year plan to double the size of one of its rail yards despite pushback from local residents. Alderman Jeanette Taylor of the 20th and allies used a parliamentary tactic to defer the legislation that would allow the railroad to acquire the streets and alleys it doesn't already own between two existing sets of tracks from Garfield Boulevard south of 59th Street. 259th Street. She had dropped her opposition to a vote until Wednesday. This would have given the railroad leeway to expand its largest U.S. intermodal yard, which has its main entrance at 47th Street on the Dan Ryan Expressway. The lack of a sign-off comes after Norfolk Southern acquired about 500 lots nearby in anticipation of City Council's land deal. Taylor vows to get Norfolk to agree to community demands on jobs before the next council meeting. It's just been a disrespect to me and the community. Let's remember, this was the displacement of 400 families in a black community. And since 2014, they've done nothing. It's dirt. Taylor said she'd earlier dropped her opposition to the project because she thought the railroad was going to meet some of her demands involving hiring and how money was being spent in the community. The railroad didn't make good on its pledges, she said. A Norfolk Southern spokesman released a statement later Wednesday saying the council's actions further delays progress on the project, compounding the impact of the many delays for our now 15-year effort to expand our 47th Street facility. This project would further Chicago's role as the heart of our nation's supply chain. The impact is twofold. New construction remains on pause, meaning more delays to bid on work by local contractors. It also means a delay in the good-paying jobs created by Norfolk Southern from the expansion, as well as those with contractors and other Chicago businesses that support the yard's ongoing operations. We're committed to Chicago and the local communities we serve in the region. We look forward to progressing on this project alongside our partners in Chicago, all to expand economic opportunity in the community and to keep freight moving for America's consumers and businesses. On the backs of the railway workers that Alzheimer Joe and the rest of Congress betrayed during their labor negotiations for more sick days or more sick leave.
Yeah, this is, I mean, they're basically, it's platitudes here, right?
Yeah.
They're just telling you all the things you want to hear, and they're basically saying, "Oh, well, it's the city's fault that you don't have all these great paying jobs because we couldn't get that extra land we've been dragging our feet to get or to do anything with the existing land that we've already got."
But they wouldn't be good paying jobs anyway, Ed, as we saw
or enough.
The attempted railway strike in December. Or enough. Yeah. The spokesman noted work has been delayed on the site by the drawn-out approval process of the city ordinance. Tough titty. Do you remember Artie on the Gary Shandling comedy on HBO where he was the talk show? It's Larry Sanders. Remember the Larry Sanders show?
Yes.
And, what's his name?
Starring Gary Shandling.
Gary Shandling, and Rip Torn played his producer, Artie. Artie was always very, very rough with everything. And he'd always say to Larry whenever there's a problem, tough titty. That's what I'm saying to Norfolk Southern. All right. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who introduced the ordinance. That's an old reference, but it's a great show if you can find it on wherever streaming.
Okay, hold on a sec, because Kathy Powers has an important comment right here. She says, "Aren't you tired of this shit?"
Fuck this noise, man.
Every Tuesday and Friday and every other day of the week that I'm thinking about or looking at stories for the show, Kathy, yeah, I'm tired of it. Slavery reigns in the city. Yep. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who introduced the ordinance, has maintained that after decades of industrial job loss, the city can help its remaining businesses by providing land they need to expand at reduced cost. In a news conference following the city council meeting, Lightfoot defended the rail company's efforts on community engagement because of course she would. Because of course she would.
Why do they need to reduce costs for the railroads? They're making huge amounts of profits on the backs of their workers who they're screwing over.
You got to go into the community, and Norfolk Southern really has to take the lead responsibility for that. And they have been, to make sure that they're listening to what the concerns of the residents are and coming up with solutions that address those concerns, Lightfoot said.
Here's a solution, Lori. How about they pay the going rate for that land and they actually come through with all the promises that they made and maybe do better than that? Because
they're corporations and they're entitled to do whatever the F they want. Norfolk Southern's location in the heart of Chicago means it can't avoid withering debates over who benefits and who doesn't from the city's prominence as a freight hub, which happens when the railroad displaces longtime residents and whether it's doing enough to promote green space and clean air for those still living near the tracks. Taylor previously blocked a vote on the ordinance for 5 months to pressure the railroad to conduct a study on the long-term health impacts. Good for her. Of diesel soot from the trains and trucks and to hire more black contractors and employees, including from Englewood. Taylor has cited a lawsuit from a longtime Englewood resident whose home was acquired by Norfolk Southern through eminent domain as evidence that the company's expansion is harming its surrounding community. The railroad made no apologies for taking over the property, according to its court filing in response to her lawsuit, and is now finalizing a settlement with the plaintiff.
This is such a crock of shit.
We're talking about $1 billion company that got rich off the backs of slaves, and now they're mistreating black and brown communities, she said. Norfolk Southern spokesperson Connor... Oh, does this guy have the right last name, Ed? Norfolk Southern we had Hooker the lobbyist, right? Wait for it. Norfolk Southern spokesperson Connor Spielmacher. He's just tossing out his spiel. Has said the company supports education. How much more? It's like, when you write a movie script, you're always like looking for the perfect names for characters that kind of represent them.
Spielmaker.
He's Spielmaker. We're hearing his spiel. Has said that the company, I'm going to remember, Mark, make a note of that. Anytime I have a character in a script that is a representative, spokesperson, would call him Spielmacher.
You got a notepad nearby, Jerry? Write that down.
I will.
Spielmaker.
Speaking of movies, I'll tell you about one I saw last night as we go into the wrap-up of the show that I recommend everybody run to theaters and see. But Spielmacher, whatever, has said the company supports educational efforts about the history of railroads in the black community and that the railroad has tried to be a good neighbor. Do not try, do or do not. There is no try. As required by the city of Chicago for all contractors, the ordinance transferring streets and alleys to Norfolk Southern listed by name hundreds of slaves that the railroad's corporate predecessors owned prior to the Civil War. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are part of our culture today, and we're committed to continued progress, he said. We're proud to be a majority-minority employer in Chicago, where more than 30% of our local workforce is black. Still not enough in that neighborhood. Spielmacher continued expanding this in-town facility, eliminates the need for residents, quote, to commute out of the city for work, creates new jobs, and reduces urban sprawl, while directly reinvesting in the communities we have long been a part of. He later told the Tribune that Norfolk Southern has publicly, through multiple public meetings in addition to comments published in your newspaper, affirmed our commitment to hiring diverse contractors for the construction of the project in addition to the additional jobs it will bring upon completion. And there's Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor of the 20th voicing her displeasure with Norfolk Southern's presentation about its expansion plans in the Englewood neighborhood during a community meeting at Kennedy King College. So there's the representative of the community. And she's there, and she's doing her job. And, not good enough for Norfolk Southern, who just want to railroad their way into what they want.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Entirely. But Taylor said Wednesday that she was not going to sign on the RDA that I was not here for, referring to a development agreement the city entered into with the railroad for its expansion in 2014. She also said she wants an accounting of a $3 million environmental and community development fund established by this agreement for projects near the expanded rail yard. For instance, she says she and community residents didn't know at the time that this fund paid for $934,000 in improvements to container loading equipment inside the yard and $200,000 for repairs and upgrades to a rail viaduct along the proposed Englewood Nature Trail. She wants to know how this happened. Basically, they went around me and went right to the mayor and asked this to be introduced, Taylor said. So it shows you the type of respect that this billion-dollar company has for my community. Chicago is the country's largest freight hub, handling half of all U.S. intermodal trains and a total of $3 trillion worth of cargo each year, according to the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. Thank you, Kathy.
Speaking of puns.
That's right.
Yes. Kathy also reminds us that I keep forgetting to bring it up. The UIC faculty has been on strike for a number of days.
Oh.
University of Illinois at Chicago. They mentioned it briefly on like radio news, but it's not been a gigantic story in the news, probably because they don't like to amplify when faculty is on strike or any kind of strike is happening.
Here's the thing, Kathy. I thank you for sharing that. For every 6 stories we choose for a show, I think Ed is probably curating and cultivating another 15 or 20 in our Slacks.
Yeah, we can't do them all.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, and that sounds. I may have seen it cross the news cycle, but
yeah, there's
go ahead.
And just for 10-second update is I'm seeing on YouTube from CBS Chicago from 14 hours ago, their headline says that the striking UIC faculty agreed to another round of negotiations. So looks like it's in progress, whatever the negotiations are at this point. So we'll hopefully when it gets a little further down the road, maybe we'll cover that on a future episode.
Yeah. So it looks like we actually got through everything we wanted to report on tonight, despite the late start. There's one last. It's not really a story. It's more of a ha-ha look at these clowns that Ed shared with me. And it's in regard to Alderman Derek Curtis's his recovery from a malfunctioning gun he was repairing or cleaning. Let's get into it. All right, so here's what's okay. So I'm waiting for the Twitter to load. Come on, man. Okay, here it goes. So I love this picture. And what did you share with me? Like this should be what should we caption this photo?
Oh yeah, for the Twitter account Chicago Bars was asking people to come up with a caption.
Yeah.
So
what the fuck is Ray Lopez wearing?
What I mean, are those? Those are Christmas ornaments, right?
Oh, it must have been at Christmas time. Okay, yeah.
He's dressed up as a Christmas tree. Is that what he is? Yeah, it looks like he's basically a Christmas tree blazer there.
But the Sun-Times story is dated January 10th. Alderman Derek Curtis said Tuesday he's having second thoughts about his support to Mayor Lori Lightfoot because of the mayor's coldness, including her failure to reach out to him after he accidentally shot himself, according to the Tribune. Now there's Crappleman. The outgoing aldermanic failure in Kathy's ward. Which ward is that, Kathy? 40? No. Kathy, what's your ward? She'll type in. Anyway, this Crappleman, yeah, he looks really bad. Well, that's years of his soul being sucked out of him, betraying the members of the ward there. Whoops. And Lopez in his holiday dining jacket, January 10th in City Council, and Derek Curtis. So here's the context, though. I mean, for this funny picture, it's like it is a funny. If you don't realize the alderman accidentally shot himself in the hand, it's funny. But unfortunately, the guy, did injure himself. So Alderman Derek Curtis said Tuesday he's having second thoughts about his support for Mayor Lori Lightfoot because of the mayor's coldness, including her failure to reach out to him after he accidentally shot himself. And he accidentally shot himself because he was cleaning a gun or something. Was that the story?
Is that what it was?
Let's see if I can open up the story. Yeah, I think when I looked at it earlier, it had something.
Yeah, while cleaning a malfunctioning gun. Yes.
Obviously, it didn't malfunction. Is the malfunction then that he shot himself accidentally? Because
the malfunction is that he forgot to unload it before starting to clean it.
So who's responsible for that malfunction? The gun or the alderman?
Little from column A, a little from column B. Anyway.
Oh, let's see what yours says.
So here's Chicago Bars. He says, City Council meeting today, caption contest. Whoever replies with the best caption for this below gets a modest bar tab on a 1-year Block Club subscription. Well, that happened already. But here he's retweeting. He's retweeting the thing, and here he is. He submitted his own one. Went clean through. Neat. Reminds me of when they taught us about stigmata in seminary. Whoa. Here's my slap in slow motion for wearing a festive suit out of season. Actually, let's get the photo up on the screen if we can, Jerry. So
I would say my submission would have been something like Curtis saying, as an alderman trying to serve my community, I just always feel crucified. Here's the proof.
Let me switch to that, and then I can read the. Yeah.
Okay, so
hey Lopez, check out my Band-Aid. Sick. Is that the Waldo Cooney's guy on there? Yeah, smell it. It's pizza scented.
So Crappleman's in the 46, and yeah, I forgot that's not your ward. Okay, but we talk about Crappleman a lot, so that's why I made the mistake. Sorry.
Yeah, here we get Derek. This was Bacon for President's submission. Check it out. Can barely see the hole. I'm like Wolverine. Curtis says, and so they built me a whole new arm. Can you believe that? I've tricked another dummy into thinking I have a bionic arm. The third step in my sinister plot is complete.
Lopez is a real character for being the authoritarian, seeming authoritarian that he is with all of his support of CPD solving everything, all the problems of the city.
Yeah, so
that's I met him. He seemed very engaged and he very committed to his beliefs and stuff. But when we reported on how he dropped out of the race after he raised all that money, I'm like, come on, man, that had to be I don't know if it was. I think it was calculated.
Yeah, I know. If I didn't actually have morals and stuff, I might have run to do that because I got debts to pay. I got bills to pay.
You hit the nail on the head with morals and city council people.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag in there for sure.
Are any other captions that were funny?
Yeah, I didn't read through all of them, but let's see if there's anyone else in here that's really funny. It says, if you look really close, you can see my career in my hand. And Colin came around the corner with a tamale this big for lunch. You go up Ashley to about Lawrence, and right there on the southwest corner, they have the best Bluetooth earpieces. Tell them I sent you.
Oh, any others?
Let's see. What else we got? Oh, here we go. Tournament down in Florida. I hooked my ball in the rough right down by the lake. Damned alligator just popped up, cut me down on my prime. He got me, but I tore one of the bastard's eyes out, though.
These aren't as funny as I would have expected, but
no, I might be reading them badly.
Yeah, I'm no comedian to come up with anything funnier.
Yeah, he says, Kappelman, God, you two are so boring. Curtis, this is where my kid's safety scissors nearly slit open my wrist when I was at school for show and tell. Lopez, thinking, who cares, dummy? What about my holiday jacket? All right, that's all the ones I got.
That's all we got. That's all she wrote. All right.
I suppose we could do better ones, but I'm friggin' tapped right now.
With time to think about it. All right. Well, that's our show for tonight. Ed, anything you want to share at the tail end here? Stuff coming up? Anything?
Oh, stuff coming up. Nothing in particular other than reminding everybody the Chicago Restaurant Week has just started, so we might want to check that out in the Lugal and see if there's any lunch or dinner deals you want to check out with different restaurants, because a lot of them do these things where they have like a preset special meal at one of those, or where they you get to try these restaurants out for typically less than it would normally cost you to go to these places. And so it's if you've got the money to spend for a decent night out, it helps to look into and see if any of the restaurants in your area are participating in Chicago Restaurant Week.
It sounds like a Taste of Chicago crawl.
Yeah. And also, if you'd like to learn how to make Chicago-style pizza at home, head to realdeepdish.com, and you'll pick up some articles with my ridiculous humor, and you also have access to absolutely free recipes on how to make Chicago deep dish pizza, Chicago thin crust. There's a recipe for the Pequod caramelized crust style, which is very popular. And there's some basic instructions on how to do stuffed pizza. So if you're one of those bakers and you want to make an Effingham load of pizza at home, go to realdeepdish.com.
You won't be disappointed if you follow his instructions and make a pizza of the same quality that Ed shared with me a week ago. It was delicious. I hate cooking for one, but I have to try and make one of these at home myself. Oh, the movie I saw last night. Oh my God.
Yes.
Babylon.
Babylon.
Are you a fan of Boogie Nights?
I did like Boogie Nights.
Okay. Magnolia?
Was not a big fan of Magnolia.
Okay. Well, it's not the same director. Paul Thomas Anderson did Boogie Nights and Magnolia. And now suddenly the director of Babylon is completely escaped my mind. Give me a moment here. But there's a reason I bring them up. And I'll tell you what Babylon's. Okay, so Damien Chazelle, he also directed La La Land. So.
Oh, okay.
Babylon is about a group of Hollywood actors, industry people during the silent era, and their lives as the industry suddenly transitions from silent films into sound. And Brad Pitt plays this leading man who's modeled after silent film star John Gilbert. Margot Robbie plays a character based on Clara Bow, Joan Crawford. But the reason I mentioned Boogie Nights and Magnolia is that while this is a historical drama, it's a character study of people in that era. And what's fascinating about it is that it really captures the zeitgeist of what movies were to people then as an escape. The culture of celebrity and how celebrities come and go depending on changes in audience tastes and stuff, or technological changes like the transition from the silent era to sound. And my God, it is just like one of the most beautifully produced, epic scale movies I've seen in a long time. And I'm also personally a big fan of the silent film era. I mean, film history, just as a film buff myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to be a fan of that era or history to be completely what's the word? To be completely brought in or mesmerized by the performances of the actors playing these characters in that era. That, they lived in a different era, but the concerns, the insecurities, the aspirations are no different than today or celebrities of this day. So I was shocked to see a lot of negative criticism about this movie. And that's why I didn't see it sooner. But a friend of mine on Facebook said, you got to see this movie. I'm like, I'll give it a try. And I'm like, what the fuck are the critics saying? Why? I've got this theory, Ed. There are so many people that make money for clicks on YouTube, tearing things down and being negative. Yeah. And I saw some stuff on YouTube and I'm like, motherfucker, you go make a movie like this. You're here on YouTube ripping it apart, talking about all the good things about it, but still saying, why was this director allowed to be able to make this movie? I'm like, how can you talk out of both sides of your mouth? It's a masterpiece. And I really do think Margot Robbie, she's got to be up for an Academy Award nomination. So does Brad Pitt. So does the director. But if you like period dramas with really, really fascinating characters and great performances, and just, it was 3 hours long and I didn't want it to end. That's how good it was. So I recommend.
Speaking of 3 hours long.
Oh, that's us here tonight. Go see Babylon in theaters if you can. So I really trust me. I do not think you'll be disappointed if you're a film lover. And it's a Valentine to Hollywood and movies, and why people go see movies, and why people idolize stars, and why, so much of American culture is ingrained with Hollywood and movies and imagination and escape, which is why I like doing it when I can as a director. So that's the show. That's my recommendation. I think that I've given good recommendations in the past, as we did with that documentary Punch 9 for Harold Washington that Ed joined me to go see that one time. So give it a try. Give it a look. All right.
Ooh, Kathy says Netflix doesn't have the last episode of Better Call Saul on there, so she's furious about that.
Really? If they've got the entire season, they shouldn't be leaving out the last episode.
That's weird.
Oh, but they wanted to pay for it. I see. I don't know what plan you're on, Kathy, because Netflix has got two plans. One where you pay with no commercials, and I don't know that Netflix charges you extra for watching an episode if you're on their regular subscription plan.
No, they don't have that. They don't have that on-demand thing there. Maybe they're just maybe like Amazon or some other streaming thing is in place where they are not allowed to show the last episode yet.
We're not going to spoil it for her, but I think it's a satisfying ending, Kathy. I think that you'll be surprised. I was by the ending of Better Call Saul. I thought it was really well written. I think Bob Odenkirk really earned that award. I think it was the Emmys the other day. He was at some award ceremony where he won Best Actor, I believe, for Better Call Saul. So Amazon is the one that wants you to pay for it. That doesn't surprise me because, Bezos is going to go poor if you don't pay him for it, Kathy. All right, Ed, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm actually going to be back from Sundance Tuesday morning, so I will be here to join Ed for the Tuesday night show. I will be monitoring the news cycle as Ed will, and we'll be in touch on Slack. So, Ed, thank you for joining me tonight. I will see you next Tuesday. And to the rest of the viewers who joined us tonight, once again, I want to give a big thanks and shout out to our Patreon supporters, Dominic Palella, Kathy Powers, Shane Coughlin, and Dr. Howard Ehrman for your $5 a month support for our little channel here. We're growing our subscriber base. To everybody in the audience, please, as you go into the weekend, watch out for each other, be safe, take care of each other, be vigilant, and remember, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Stay safe, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.